Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the November 16th, 2020 Old Bridge Township Council meeting. Please rise for a pledge of allegiance. Please remain standing for a moment of silence and our prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As customary in this chamber, we stand for a moment to remember those who are protecting our freedoms, both here and abroad, for our first responders, and for those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. A moment of silence, please. Our prayer, Mr. Pasquitti.
Dear Lord, bless thy servants in the ministry of public affairs who serve thee in this chamber. Give us quiet minds and hearts that we may hear your voice. Help us to know when to speak, when to be silent. Give us strength to oppose the wrong and uphold the right, and grant that we have a good conscience and soul at peace with thee and one another. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated.
Everyone seated? Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. De Palma?
Here.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Yes, here.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Here.
Mr. Pasquitti?
Here.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Here.
Ms. Walker?
Here.
President Sohor? Here. We have 8 present. Right.
Thank you, and everyone, welcome to our meeting. The first thing will be presentations, and the first one is proclaiming November 28th, 2020 Small Business Saturday.
Thank you, Council President. I'll read it from here.
Yes, good evening, Mayor. Thank you.
This is a proclamation that we've prepared recognizing November 28th as Small Business Saturday here in Old Bridge. Old Bridge Township, New Jersey celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 30.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of all firms with paid employees, are responsible for 64.9% of the new jobs created from 2000 to 2018. Small businesses employ 47.3% of the employees in the private sector in the United States. 62% of United States small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of this year in order to stay in business. 65% of the U.S. small businesses owners said it would be most helpful to their businesses to have their regulars return and start making purchases again. And 3/4 of U.S. consumers are currently looking for ways to shop small and support their community businesses. 96% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small, independently owned businesses support their commitment to making purchases and that have positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And 90% of the consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that small businesses are essential to their community. 95% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday reported the day makes them want to shop, eat at small, independently owned business all year long, not just during the holiday season. Old Bridge Township supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities, and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Now, therefore, I, Owen Henry, Mayor of the Township of Old Bridge, New Jersey, do hereby proclaim November 28, 2020 as Small Business Saturday. Council, it's so important that we honor these businesses. Thank you. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Mayor. Absolutely. Small business is the backbone of our community, and now more than ever, they need us. They've always been there for us, and we should be there for them. So everyone, please come out and observe this Saturday, November 28th. Thank you so much. Next will be Optimum discussion with Marilyn Davis.
They're present on our Zoom call. I'm going to ask that Marilyn unmutes herself. As she's a co-host, she's able to. Marilyn?
Hi, good evening. I can't see anyone. But thank you so much for having us here tonight. I've had a good relationship with Himanshu and in conversation.
Marilyn, can you introduce yourself a little bit more clearly, please?
For the public.
Sure, let me try to increase the volume.
Yeah, just so the public knows.
Just state your name and who you are.
Right.
Sure, I'm Marilyn Davis. I'm the Area Director for Government Affairs for Altice USA. I oversee all of the government engagement throughout the state.
Okay, thank you, Marilyn. Welcome.
You're welcome. I wish I could see you guys. Thank you for having me tonight. I think after the most recent outage, I think it was October 27th, 28th, where a part of Saraville was impacted by an outage a part of Old Bridge was impacted by an outage in Saraville, where I think someone hit a pole and took out some of the service in the town. And speaking to Himanshu regarding that, he raised with me that there were some issues locally with the service. So he invited me to come tonight to speak to mayor and council and the community about what we're doing in the town, but also just to provide you with the update. So certainly under COVID, our services have been, I guess, really tapped in that people are working from home and kids are in school. So there increased usage on the network that has had an impact on the network. And as a result of that, we have increased capacity to the network so that our consumers, both business and residential, would not experience any network issues as they utilize the service. That said, during the height of COVID and certainly stretching for a few months, we did have some issues with customer care, which drove traffic, unfortunately, to municipal government, because as consumers couldn't reach the company or were frustrated with their engagement with the company, they then diverted to outreaching to municipal officials. And so certainly was an unfair position to put the towns in. But unfortunately, we also, the company experienced high turnover in our care area, which care normally has churn, but during COVID, there was we had a lot of workforce challenges, and quite frankly had to restructure the business model for our call center. Previously, the call centers were centralized. We had to then decentralize so that those workers now work from home as well, in order to accommodate the needs of the workforce and to protect the workforce. So since COVID, and probably August, September, on those months, we added more resources to our call centers. So now the customer experience is back to business as usual. That said, the company is continuing to add more resources to the care team, including upgrading the network, upgrading the technology, and we're bringing in a world-class phone system that should be live by the end of the month, so by the end of December. That is happening. So that plus the changes to the network, we're seeing an improvement in in the customer experience. And that, just to give you an example, in Old Bridge, we were certainly seeing an increase in service visits and contact from the company. And I'll give you the numbers in 1 second. That those numbers have decreased over the last 3 months. And again, I'll give you the numbers there. And what we're finding for those customers who are still having issues, a lot of the traffic that's been driven to one customer care has been around the Wi-Fi or internet connectivity. And certainly, just like maintaining a car, there are going to be outages there will be issues that customers will experience with modems and routers and sometimes outside wiring. Those things are normal. Usually it's around 1% of our consumers tend to have those issues on a regular basis, so we're never at zero. I think, though, because of the challenge we were having with care, it kind of drove traffic, especially to the municipalities, unfortunately, and to some degree, so drove traffic to the municipalities. But again, as I mentioned earlier, for the most part, and we like I said, we did have to make some, add more capacity to the network, and so far things are looking good. I'm going to give you the numbers. So, and our complaints at the height was probably July, August, where we saw an increase in complaints. So, say for example, in June we had 14 complaints. In July we had 45, and in August we had 52. It was during that time that we added more capacity to the network, and also during that time we added more customer service agents. So in September, the complaints went down to 34, and in October, the complaints went down to 30. So we're seeing a decrease, and we expect that the changes that we've taken to continue as they go into effect, we expect to see a further decline. Of the cases that were Wi-Fi related, we're finding that because of the increased demand, if a consumer was directly connected to the Wi-Fi or directly connected to the router, there were like minimal issues. But it's in that Wi-Fi environment where consumers have a Ring doorbell, they have Alexa, they're using the Wi-Fi for computers, and multiple people were on the network at the same time. It was in that experience that consumers were having issues. And in some cases, once we assess the situation and determine that the network is fine, it was in the Wi-Fi environment. In some cases, we would recommend to consumers to get an extender or move their routers to places that were more centralized so that they would have less interference. But those issues surfaced during COVID, and we then, after 6 months of trying to figure out like the problem, we've concluded that majority of the cases were more about the Wi-Fi environment. And so we've been trying to educate consumers about getting extenders and mesh systems to help extend the Wi-Fi in their homes. But those issues, unfortunately, once we realized the network was fine, there were no issues at the node, then we had to shift to consumer education, but those require a service visit to kind of assess the situation. Certainly there are cases outside of that that we had to do either outside work or inside work, but the majority of the cases have been around the Wi-Fi connectivity. So at this point, we're seeing that our numbers, our target numbers are, again, below our targets. Therefore, it's back to business as usual. But as issues arise, I urge you to feel free to send consumers directly to me. And I have a team of folk who work with me to resolve those issues. And we can come back to you and say, here are our findings, so that you know how the issue was resolved. And then I can manage that process and work at the highest level of management to ensure that the issue is resolved and the customer is one, hopefully satisfied with the outcome. But in instances where the issue is not on the business, sometimes you don't find a solution there. But if you get any complaints, please feel free to let me know. I haven't seen a lot of traffic come across my desk for Old Bridge, but Himanshu certainly has shared a few cases with me, and we've gotten those addressed. But if you all are receiving any complaints directly from consumers, please feel free to direct them to me. And Himanshu can provide you my email address, so I can give it to you tonight, and then you can share those complaints or those service needs, and I can address them with the team.
Thank you very much for the information. It's appreciated. Before I open it up to the council for questions, Mr. Shaw, indicated he had a question for you as well. So, Mr. Shaw?
Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn, for coming on to the meeting and addressing the council and our residents about the potential improvement. But I can tell you there's one complaint that is unclear, or there's a couple of questions that I want to make sure clarified by you. About one of the biggest complaints we have got is the rates charged by Altis or Optimum. And I want you to clarify to the council and to the public that township does not play a role, and maybe you can explain how, where you get your rate established or approval, particularly recently. That one thing that I would certainly want to clarify, because they think that it's mayor who controls that, or it's the administrator or the council controls that, and we do not.
So I'm happy to respond. I think it's necessary to, one, explain how the interaction between the municipality and the company. What the municipality does is provide the company with the authority to operate in the town. It does not give the company exclusivity. Any provider who want to come into the community can do so. But the authority, in most cases, I think in Old Bridge is a local franchise agreement. It's negotiated between the mayor and the council, and it just gives us the authority to operate. In some places, it's a system-wide and it's with the state. But that aside, beyond that point, the company operates under federal policy, and when it comes to rates are under the jurisdiction of the Federal Communications Commission, not the municipality or the state.
And you clarify the issue about franchise that township provides, but that's really a function under the Board of Public Utility directing. So it's not like township has the authority to deny, because in the past a denial and the BPU has override township ability to denial. So basically we negotiate rate, and you are correct in stating that it's not an exclusive agreement, franchise agreement offered to you, but in the reality, there is nobody's coming forward. There's very little or any competitions, and there's still open question that why FIOS in part of the town and not in entire town, which is the only direct competition to you. Any idea why FIOS is not in some of the area in the township?
Well, one, as most of you know, the cable industry is the very expensive business. And so I can't speak to why Verizon isn't there, but typically those type of expansion decisions are based on return on investment. So if it's more expensive to build out, in some cases, companies will make a decision not to expand if it costs more than what they will receive back in profits. But I can't speak to Verizon directly.
Understood. Thank you. Council President, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw. I will now open it up.
Mayor wants to ask.
Mayor, yes, Mayor.
Thank you, Council President. Marilyn, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I normally don't speak up on these issues, but I feel compelled. I can tell you, Marilyn, that the biggest complaint, the most complaints I get are not about the taxes in Old Bridge, but it's about the service that Optimum or Altis provide to our residents. Mr. Shaw touched on it. People really, truly believe that the mayor and council control how much you charge. They truly believe that we have cut off areas of town purposely for some reason that other competitors don't want to come in. We know that it's a financial decision they have to make, but the consumer truly believes that the municipality is stopping that and that we control the cable industry here in Old Bridge, and it's just not the facts. So we need you to do more to educate. And you mentioned it before that the consumer, at the end of the day, has control over the cable industry here in Old Bridge. They have the ability to cut the service or discontinue the service at any point in time. but it is not the municipality. And as I said, it's the biggest complaint I get about the product you provide, customer service, about nightmare experiences, 5 hours on the phone. But I do get 3 or 4 emails per day about the cable service provided here in Old Bridge. And as the mayor, it's very frustrating. So I'm encouraged by what you said in the beginning, that progress and improvements are coming. I continue to tell people to contact you, to contact the BPU, and hopefully that services will improve, and I'm optimistic that they will. So again, I want to thank you, but I think that you need to do more when it comes to educating the public on how it works, how the system works here in Old Bridge and in the state of New Jersey. But again, I thank you for coming. Thank you for being on.
And Mayor, as you get any complaints, please feel free to send them to me, and I can come back to you and say, no, here was the outcome of that particular complaint or service need.
Yes, a lot of times it's just a verbal complaint where people will come up to me. Yesterday, 2 people just approached me and working from home, telling me that the service is horrible, that it's almost impossible to work from home. So, and that's important nowadays.
Absolutely. And so what I could do when I receive those complaints, I can then take it to our network team, our engineers, and say, can you look at the network in this particular area? Because we, as you know, there are nodes at the neighborhood level, and we can look and see if there are any issues with the node to see if it's near capacity or below targets, and then we can come back and say yay or nay. So if they are having issues with their service, again, it could be there or it could be at the household level. Some of the challenge, and this is information that, I mean, your residents, take my word for it, they can actually just go to YouTube and they can see there, looking at a wired versus wireless network. If you're in a wireless network, for instance, if you sign up for Optimum 200, in a wired environment, you may receive, like, let's say 190. But in a wireless environment, it could drop down to like 25 or 35 megabytes per second. Mm-hmm. But it varies, right? So if people feel like their services, they're not getting what they need, then they need to request a service visit. And certainly if they come through me, I can then work with our team to make sure that issue is resolved. And then if there any education that's required for the consumer, we can educate the consumer. But
thank you
a
for
lot
that.
of this is really information that's available on YouTube, where consumers can just go and look at what does it mean to be wired and what it means to be wireless. And in an environment where everyone is dependent on Wi-Fi, I think we're all getting, we're all having a growth spurt, if you will, when it comes to knowing and learning more about the Wi-Fi. I mean, I'm a political scientist. At this point, I'm like an engineer. Just through the whole COVID experience, I've had a growth spurt in learning the technical side of this business. So totally, I understand the consumer's frustration of not understanding all the technicalities, but I've had to educate myself as well.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. I'll now open it up to council. Any council person have a comment or a question for Marilyn? Mr. De Palma.
Ms. Davis, thank you very much for coming and explaining like all the trials and tribulations that you guys are going through. A couple things that I actually heard you say is 52 complaints in August, 30 some odd complaints in October. I mean, I think I've got 52 complaints in August and 30 something complaints in October, and I think we probably all have at this point. And I think the problem is where you're not hearing from the residents in Old Bridge is the long wait times. And I know you said like with COVID and everything like that, but the issues that our residents have been having has been pre-COVID. I mean, from the time that I've been on council since January, but even before that, and folks that I know in different areas, we have had catastrophic loss of internet service. We have to figure out how that we could streamline in getting these folks to complain, or at least get the notice out to your firm a little bit quicker, because like the mayor said, sometimes folks on the phone for 5 hours, 3 hours, just trying to say there's something wrong. Eventually it'll come on, but with everyone working from home, our kids remote schooling, we have to figure out a better way to do this, because it really is unacceptable. The fact that if our students, and my daughter sits right next to me, and the constant dropping of students off of a call and then having them come on and the teacher re-explain what's going on, we have to do a lot better, and Optimum Maltese has to do a lot better in making sure that our residents and your customers are getting the service that they pay for, because they're not paying $10 a month. The rates are extremely high, and they, quite frankly, they are not getting the service that they paid for. So,
If consumers feel they're not getting the service they pay for, they must request a technician visit, so that we can figure out what's going on at the local level. So you should not be dropping. I can certainly share with you cases where the issues on our side. I can show you cases of the issues on the other side. But we cannot make an assessment until we actually have a technician come out and see what the root issue is. And so, if you go through me, I can be of assistance to make sure that, like, report back to the town, say, well, here was the outcome, but also kind of manage the technicians, and I can kind of, sometimes, in this environment where everybody's, overworked, right? Some technicians are better than others. Some customer service agents are better than others. But I can kind of monitor and kind of push back. So if you have, frustrated residents and constituents, please feel free to send them to me, and then I can just manage that process.
Okay. All right. Excellent. I appreciate it. I do appreciate you coming on. I mean, coming in front of a council with known issues is like standing in front of a firing squad. So I do appreciate the fact that you're.
I've been trying it all year. It's been a long year. But no, seriously, because sometimes we'll find that on one particular street there's an issue, and it could vary. Like, JCP&L does work, and they do underground work. They hit the cable and kind of damage our equipment, and it impacts 3 residents on the street. But those things, and for me, again, I've become an engineer in 6 months. I can say, wait, let's look at this again. Let's look at this at a higher level. Whereas they may get a customer care agent who's like, processing calls, right? So if you're seeing complaints from the same area or the same individual who they haven't quite figured it out. I mean, we do have repeat service visits, and that still doesn't figure out the issue. Just let me know, and I can just drill down and, again, manage the process.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You through, Mr. De Palma? Okay. Anyone else that wants to speak on this? Mr. Peschitti?
Hi, Marilyn. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Do you know what your plans are with 5G?
We're not doing 5G.
Okay, so you have no plans for the future.
5G it was a wireless product. We're not doing 5G on the internet side.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? You good? Okay. If no one else has any comments, I'd like to say thank you again for coming. And as Mr. De Palma said, it is, you're expecting, naturally people have concerns. I know myself, I've received several, again, about communicating and, especially our senior communities, they're the ones that really have a little more difficulty, getting through and so on. So anything I will in the future make sure that I alert you to it so that hopefully we can have them understand what's going on. And as the mayor in Himanshu said, not to focus should be where it belongs, and hopefully we can get some resolution. So thank you again for coming. Have a nice holiday, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
And Matthew has my personal mobile number, so you can either call me or you can email me. And I think Ms. Peschitti has it too. So if there are any issues, just let me know.
Okay, thank you so much.
We'll be posting that on a Facebook.
You have a happy holiday.
It's been there too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Next will be our bill listing, Mrs. Walker.
Accounts payable November 16, 2020, $26,107,522.14.
Do I have a motion? Moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Murphy.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
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 Mr. Peschitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
President, we have 8 ayes.
Payroll October 23, 2020, $915,064.73.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Murphy, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Yes. Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes, President.
Payroll overtime, October 23rd, 2020, $42,109.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Mr. Pescetti. Can we have a breakdown, Mr. Shaw, please?
Thank you, Council President. As Councilwoman Walker indicated, the payroll overtime for October 23rd, 2020 was $42,109. There were no uptick in any other department except for the pandemic-related overtime continues. For the police department, the total overtime was $34,653.76. Deduct grant, $1,470.42. Deduct ETO time, $7,552.77. The net overtime was $25,630.57, representing 526.25 man and women hour. During this pay period, there was a fatal crash. One officer was injured on duty, and 2 officers were quarantined.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
8 ayes, President.
Payroll November 6, 2020, $944,467.53.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Pescetti, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
President, we have 8 ayes.
Payroll overtime, November 6, 2020, $43,428.86.
Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Pescetti, second by Mr. Murphy. Mr. Shaw, may we have a breakdown?
Thank you. As Councilwoman Walker indicated, the total overtime for this pay period was $43,428.86. There were no other issue in other department other than pandemics-related overtime. For the police department, the total overtime was $34,348.39. Deduct grant, $2,803.41. Deduct ETO time, $13,028.95. The net overtime was $18,516.03, representing 560.50 hours of men and women hours. There was no special events. 1 officer still injured on duty, and 2 officers are still quarantined during this pay period.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Thank you, Council President.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
8 ayes, President.
That concludes the bill list.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Next will be public comment on any subject matter for a maximum period of 3 minutes. This would be the time for the public, if you wish to call in and be heard, on any consent agenda items to be separated, if you like, and any comments at this time.
In order to raise your hand in our Zoom conference to make a public comment, if you're calling from your, you can call into the Zoom number, which is 929-205-6099. Our Zoom ID is 853-6910-9267. Once you are in our Zoom conference, if you're calling from a landline, you can press *9. From your Mac or PC, you can choose Option or Alt-Y, or in your phone app or on the computer URL, you can choose the option for Raise Hand. I do have a raised hand. I'm going to ask you to unmute, Mr. Morgan, and just please identify yourself, name and address for the record.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for taking my call. Matt Morgan, 84 Greenwood, first time, long time. So I'm calling today because I just want to congratulate and thank all of our poll workers for a successful election, including some of our own council who I saw out there working the election. They all worked a 16-hour day for little pay in a risky environment. And honestly, I think everyone did a stellar job implementing a new process. So we owe all of the poll workers our absolute deepest respect and gratitude. The way this election was held, I thought was outstanding. Stellar example of what our democracy can achieve. Our leadership, they made a difficult decision in a very uncertain time, and frankly, they should be commended for it. I personally helped quite a few number of people who had questions about the process, and this was the beauty. People had all the time they needed to seek help, get a full understanding, resolve any problem there might have been with their ballot before, during, even after it was cast. Incredibly open, transparent, secure process there. At the end of the day, it's the great part, everyone's given choice to vote however they wanted. Turnout was through the roof. It was over 10% nationally, up, breaking records. We'll probably see that here once everything's counted. And honestly, that level of engagement in the process, that feels like the ultimate goal. We should be doing anything we can to push that number even higher, not trying to establish, say, more roadblocks. And I know our council has been a strong critic of the electoral process, and given the resolution on the consent agenda tonight, I'm sure we're in for another very special episode. But I sincerely hope we do not hear any disingenuous arguments about increased public health risk, fraud, cost to administer the election. If you're pushing that kind of angle, I honestly don't know if you have the voters' best interest in mind. I wish that our elected officials didn't take advantage of people's discomfort in that which is new and unfamiliar, rather just took the time to develop and convey an understanding of why an election would be conducted in this manner. So personally, I'm glad my tax dollars funded a process that prioritized engagement, accuracy, security, and public health, even if it cost a little bit more and the counting took some time. If we want further improvements in the process, I feel our council should look at encouraging the state to continue pushing with replacement of some of the nation's oldest voting machines, which if we already possessed, probably would have eliminated most of the downsides of the new process. But hey, with any luck, we'll see those in 2021. So thank you everyone for your time and stay safe.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
Okay, the next person I have, I'm going to ask to unmute. I have you with the last two numbers of your phone number as 92. Please state your name and address for the record. Hi, you're unmuted. Can you state your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, Nina Jocknotes here. Good evening, Nina Jocknotes here.
Ms. Jocknowitz, we hear you. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My address is West Greystone Road. Anyway, actually, two things. First of all, I'm wondering if hello?
We can hear you, Ms. Jocknowitz. Continue speaking.
Okay, so two things. I'm wondering if the town...
Ma'am, you keep cutting out. Are you speaking? Ma'am, we hear background noise, but we cannot hear you.
Gabrielle?
Yes.
Okay, it's really hard because there's like a weird delay. So give me a second, please. Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. So the reason I'm calling is, first of all, I was wondering if there's a fund that needs to be created in order for the council persons to actually wear safe and well vetted facial masks so that they don't potentially get exposed to COVID by a community member or somebody else. And if there is a fund, I'd like to be the first one to donate to it. because I see a number of council persons who still continue not to follow the CDC guidelines and refuse to wear masks. But that's the first thing. And that, and I hope you'll be able to reach out to me. You know my number, so you certainly can. But more importantly than that, actually tonight I'm calling up because the state of New Jersey, or the Fish and Game and Wildlife, has decided to attempt to usurp the laws that are already in place today to rehabilitate wild animals in New Jersey. There are set within almost every county in New Jersey a number of rehabbers who are licensed by the state and have been doing it for many, many years. And Fish and Game is trying to get rid of that by calling upon like a little known thing, which is chronic wasting syndrome, as the reason why they don't want to have any rehabilitation. Now, in the state of New Jersey, and by the way, nothing east of Wisconsin has there ever been a chronic wasting syndrome in any deer species, but they're talking about terminating all animals, all wild critters that may come to people's footsteps. That is birds, that are raccoons, that are fox, that are squirrels. You just kill them. That's what the state wants to do. We have a site set up called Save Rehabilitation of Wild Critters in New Jersey. People can log into that site. It is on Facebook, and we will add you to the site, and we will give you the link to reach out to the state and stop this from
Ms.
occurring.
Jacknowitz, the 3 minutes is up for public comment. Thank you.
Evening.
If there are any other members of the public to make a public comment, please raise your hand.
Now would be the time to call in for public to make comments.
President, we don't have any other raised hands at this time.
Okay, seeing that we have no one else waiting to speak, I will close the public portion. Thank you. Next will be our consent agenda. I'd like to get first and a second for it, and then ask for council separations.
Second.
Moved by, I'm sorry, who moved it? Mr. Rizzoli, second by Dr. Greenberg-Belli. Anyone for a separation? Gabby, can you call the roll and ask each individual council person if they'd like a separation, please?
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
did you want any separations?
Yeah, I do actually. I'd like to separate C24, C25, C27, C32, and C33. Thank you.
Let me just make sure I have all of them. C24, C25, C27, C32, and C33, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. De Palma?
C28, please.
No, I'm trying to just get the separations first and then roll call. Is that right? I just want to make sure. Okay. Separations first. Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
C29, just for clarification, thank you.
Sure. Mr. Merwin's absent. Mr. Murphy? No separations. Mr. Piscitty?
No.
Mr. Rizzoli?
C33.
Okay. Any others? Or is that good? Ms. Walker?
No.
President Sohor?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll vote on the balance of the consent agenda without the separations. Yes, I need a motion, please.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Greenberg-Belli, second by Mr. De Palma.
Okay, so the roll call, Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes, President.
Okay, next will be first separation, C24. Mrs. Brown?
Yes, I just wanted some more clarity on this since this is in my ward.
Okay, Mr. Shaw?
Nicole will
Yep.
provide the explanation.
Okay. Good evening, Mrs. Shapiro. How are you? Good.
Oh, Nicole, the microphone's not on.
Your mic needs to be on? Is it?
It's on. Can you hear me? I'm going to shout. Is this better? Okay, so Councilwoman Brown, the application that we're putting forward is for a local freight grant that DOT had put out. For you to even qualify, oh, thank you, Mary. For you to even qualify for the grants application, you have to show your percentage of truck traffic on specific roadways that you want the grant for to be in excess of 10%. What we noticed is in this particular area, we have a substantial amount of truck traffic going to our industrial section. We knew we would qualify. For us to even contemplate putting in an application, we needed a traffic consultant. We got Deanna Drum, our traffic consultant, who usually helps us out with our board applications for traffic, to come up with a traffic study to determine the truck capacity in that area. We're in excess of probably about 35% of truck traffic on Perrine and Waterworks Road, so we do qualify for the application. And just to improve the intersection, I mean, we noticed that truck drivers have complained to us about the intersection of Perrine and Waterworks Road. Some of the pavement condition, especially on Waterworks Road, is not to our advantage, and we'd like to improve that. So we took it as a whole project. The improvements that we're proposing that have been recommended by our traffic consultant is resurfacing, restriping, realigning that intersection so it's a little bit more easily understood, because it's very wide as you approach Waterworks Road. So in doing so, we came up with an application cost, or a construction cost fee of in excess of $1 million, and we're hoping that we get it from NJDOT. So it's just to submit the application. We're going to throw our hat in the ring and, cross our fingers and hope that we get it.
Okay. I need to ask Mr. Roselli real quick. Am I allowed to ask a question about something else pertaining to the area that you might know? Sure. Yeah. Just real quick, too. I've had a lot of residents ask me about the property that's over off of Brewster Circle. It's behind that development, which,
Yes.
if you know the development's
Yes.
basically one street.
Yes.
But they've been seeing a lot of surveyors. I did talk to Himanshu about it, but I guess a lot of people have inquired. So do we know if they're actually building something?
Yep, a lot of people have inquired to our department as well. There were land surveyors that were out there. There were also geotechnical engineers that were out there, and they were testing, I guess, the permeability of the soil, et cetera. I believe that there is a contract purchaser for the property. They're looking to develop it. That contract purchaser had come in for a pre-application meeting with the engineering and planning office, with Vina and myself, through a Zoom meeting. We had talked about, what they were proposing to do. And, Vina and I just look at these applications, and we basically state what's in our ordinance as far as land development. We don't sway them whether yes or no. But it is looking like somebody wants to put a residential development in that area.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Okay, that was it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Move it. Second.
Moved by Mr. Rizzoli, second by Mr. Paschetti.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin? Is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Paschetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohor?
Yes.
President, we have 8 ayes.
Okay, next will be C25. Mrs. Brown?
Again, I just wanted to ask more so about the 2020 coronavirus aid relief and what this in particular is going to be used for.
Shapiro?
Thank you. Mrs. Brown, not to confuse it with the regular CARES Act money, this is specifically community development block grant funding, but it is, related to the coronavirus, anything to do to improve, but we're really trying to focus on low and moderate income households, and there's a lot more regulation and stipulations when you're using community development block grant funding. So, for example, in this particular case, we had put out, and I believe we had distributed to all council members that we had a public information center for this revision, where we outlined the different projects that were going to be funded with the $450,000. One being, we're expanding the small business with another $100,000 cap for that grant. that would help small businesses each get $5,000 towards their capital operating for their business. We're now opening up $10,000 for rental and mortgage assistance for those that have been affected by either losing their job during the pandemic. We're also going to have a small portion of that money go towards the construction of the Civic Center, amphitheater, stairwell, and retaining wall. Not the retaining wall that was done on the northern side of that amphitheater, but the southern side. It's the one that holds up the exit stairwell. And some people might say, well, how is that pandemic related? You know, everybody knows that our daycare services or our after-school programs don't exist right now. Matt Mercurio had contacted me and said, well, for us to help essential workers with the daycare ends of things, we wouldn't be able to open because the back stairwell is how they would exit should they be using the classrooms downstairs. So we don't currently have a valid CO for that building to operate in the basement. And so what this solution would do is we would use CDBG money to then improve the stairwell and that retaining wall, a small portion, something north of $100,000. There's also administrative costs that comes out of it too. There's also PPE that was in it as well. And if you go to www.oldbridge projects, you could go under CDBG and you could actually see the entire table of actually everything to this date. Our 2020 annual action plan allocation, our CV funding for CV round 1, actually CV round 1, which is really considered there 2, and then this funding, which is CV3.
Okay, and you said a part of the relief would be used to help low income, or what really I should say, people who are having a problem now since COVID hit with paying their rent or mortgage. How do residents find out? Is that also going to be on the website specifically?
The small business grants application, because we had already come up with the process, that actually goes live again tomorrow. The rental and mortgage assistant program is similar to that small business. There'll be a direct link on our website. And then, you know, Mary Granahan, our TV studio director, she actually puts everything on social media. She finds every which way to get the word out on our TV, on Facebook, on Twitter, and our website. So we'll have a direct link in our news, and then we'll also have a direct link on our community development page.
Okay. I do know a few people who have reached out to me, even, well, I won't say the area, but a few people have reached out that are my ward specifically who are in danger of losing their home. So they would have to go through the process. You don't want me to just tell you directly who they are. And
No. They'd have to go through the process. There's going to be an application that they would fill out. Just in looking at the small business grants application, it's very, very simple. I know that this one, there's going to be a 2-phase process. It's up to 6 months of support, and then it's a certain, dollar amount per month. So it might not, it might be $1,000 per month, up to $6,000 for the 6-month period. And don't quote me on this; it's from my memory. But then there would be a 2 qualifying stage, one at 3 months and then one at 6 months. So it's a little bit more detailed than the small business, but there's safeguards in place so that we could try and help as many people that are in need as possible.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Question for Mrs. Shapiro? I would just like to say thank you. I think when I reviewed all the information you had given us on how this money was being allocated, I was so impressed with how your site was on the town and the people, the businesses, and providing some support here when it's so necessary. Thank you so much. I really think this town, we are, all of us collectively, doing everything we can for both the small businesses and for those homeowners and renters who are in such dire straits right now. So thank you. This was, when I read where you allocated everything, I said, oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for it. And Old Bridge itself, thank you.
Council President, I don't want to take all the credit.
No,
The mayor
no.
and the BA.
That's why I said it's a collaborative.
They guide me,
No,
so-
absolutely a collaborative effort, without doubt. The business administrator, the mayor, all of you. It was just, I really am so proud because we really are thinking about our residents and our small businesses and trying to work with them and not just, paying it lip service. I really mean that. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mayor Himanshu, all of you. Thank you very much.
Nicole is being modest. She
No,
twisted our
no,
arms
but it's
behind our
just,
back.
to me, we're doing what we should be doing, which is helping our people here in town, the residents. So thank you very much. I'll make a motion. Second? Second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohor?
Yes, and thank you all. Next will be C27, Mrs. Brown.
Okay, I just wanted a little bit more clarity. And by the way, just to also clarify myself, some of these things I might get a little bit of information on, but it's always good, as the mayor did when Marilyn Davis was speaking, to kind of clarify it for the larger audience that's at home. Because a lot of times I'll answer people's emails with the same, one of the questions that was asked about Cablevision. I always have to explain to people that cable companies don't just pop up wherever people are. They really have to see if that's, going to be a return of investment on them being there. So with these questions, it's really to clarify also for some of the residents that had questions along this line. So if I can just get clarity on C27 regarding the agreement with Middlesex County funds for the Governor's Council.
Matt, thank
Good
you.
evening.
Good evening. Do you have any specific questions, Councilwoman Brown?
No, just an overview.
This resolution actually got passed last meeting, and when we sent it to the county, they wanted our resolution to be worded in a specific manner, so that's why it's here again. But these are the funds that we use that fund a lot of our in-school programs for drug and alcohol awareness through our Municipal Alliance program. And what you have to do is every 4 to 5 years, you get a specific area that is deemed that our Municipal Alliance works closely with our police department as well as with our community to see what our issues are. And then for those 4 years, you're locked into kind of those topics. So these funds here help us fund education throughout, and this is for 2021. So anything that you might see your children learn in school from first grade all the way up to 12th grade, that's funded by the grant that we get from Middlesex County.
Thank you so much, Matt.
No problem. Thank you, guys. Anybody else have any questions?
No?
Nope. Thank you.
Okay, then I'll ask for a motion.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohor?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Next will be C28, Mr. De Palma.
Thank you, Madam President. So I just wanted to separate this. So we did have the folks from our power provider come in recently, but really this is just, I want to make sure it's highlighted that it's imperative that, as public officials, we hold the public utilities responsible for all the outages that we have endured. Our town and all the surrounding municipalities throughout this state, have been negatively affected for days and sometimes even weeks due to the recent power outages. And thankfully yesterday with the windstorm and rain that we had just come up on us, we didn't have any massive outages. But I just think that it's important that we highlight that we are doing things, right? So we had the power company come in and, we have our representation down in Trenton doing things. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that there are processes that we're going through, and we're doing our best to ensure that our providers, JCP&L in this case, we just had Optimum on, that they are being held accountable for the services they provide us.
Anyone else have a comment? Mr. Pescetti?
Yeah, I read Assemblyman Dancer's outline, and it's something very good, very positive for us, that it does hold them accountable, and it allows the municipality to look for other avenues of, another source, and not be tied in. It makes it accountable, so if we continue to have problems with certain utilities, gives us the ability to look elsewhere.
Anyone else have a comment? Okay, I'll just close it by saying I agree. Once again, we're advocating for our residents. These are the comments and the questions that we receive with the power companies, with the cable vision, and I think it's very responsible of us to have people come make a presentation, and also, like Mr. De Palma said, to highlight this resolution because it really is important. And I really think this is something that, again, we're really advocating for our residents. Do I have a motion?
Move it.
Moved by Mr. Pischetti, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pischetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohor?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Thank you. C29, Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Yes, I would just like some clarification on this, if I could, please. Thank you, Nicole.
Once again, good evening.
Thank you, Council President. So Northwood Manor, some council members might remember, there was an application in front of our zoning board. It was in 2009 that the application came forward, and I think their approvals came somewhere about 2010, 2011. The application was for a residential component off of County Route 516 on Jake Brown Road in 2 different segmented pieces. That approval also is part of our affordable housing plan for 2025. Since then, they did get approvals for the use itself to be permitted, and then they had their preliminary final major site plan approvals associated with them. Those other approvals, not the use, but the other approvals have since expired. But during that time, they had gotten NJDEP permitting, they had gotten treatment works approval from NJDEP, freshwater wetlands, flood hazard area. The application also went in front of our Old Bridge Municipal Utilities Authority, and they got tentative approval at that point. At that time, they were included in the sewer service area. Now, Middlesex County Planning Office has a map of their sewer service area. In 2013, we had requested and made sure that this was in there. But in 2016, when they amended that map, this property was excluded. So as part of that, the applicant, now that they're getting ready to develop the property, and now they have to come back in front of our zoning board, but in front of DEP again for their wetlands and for their flood hazard area permits and for their treatment works approval, have noticed that now they are excluded from that map. So now they have to then petition Middlesex County Planning Office to get themselves back in there. One part of that is that I had written a letter and included in your Novus documents was the letter that I've written to Middlesex County saying, hey, we have no problems with them, being in the sewer service area, because they were. All their approvals were based on them being in the sewer service area. How come you changed it? So, and they're supposed to notify the applicants or any projects. Usually the planning office does their due diligence in that they, see if there's any properties that they're excluding that have received approvals. So I'm not sure how Middlesex County has done that. They're asking for a resolution consenting to them being included in the sewer service area. They provide us a generic resolution. I sort of wordsmith that to include that, not that we are consenting, but we have no objections to it, because then again, it has to go back in front of our zoning board. So the language that you see in the resolution is something like, hey, we know that this application came in front of our zoning board. We know that they received land use approval. We know that they were in the sewer service area, and we have no objections to them being in the sewer service area now. Something like that.
I just want to add, Madam President, but it's also significant because they were included in our affordable housing plan, so there is no reason. We've already said we wanted these houses to be built, and we need it built, so there's not really basis to not go forward with the resolution.
Does anyone?
Thank you for the explanation and the detail, and actually, I'm glad that you noticed that, because, here it was approved already, and then I don't know why the county then excluded it after it was already approved. That was when I read it, I didn't understand that.
It's the planning office preparing a map that's GIS based, and sometimes, if you have somebody creating a map and they're not following the proper property lines, or, they're doing, all of Middlesex County, and they miss something and it's not checked, mistakes can happen. So I'm not sure what their rationale is. Similar case happened for Woodhaven as well, where they actually took a line and bifurcated an entire development. So, an entire piece of property, and that's not, in GIS, that's not how it goes. We usually just follow the property lines. Again, they were in the sewer service area. They got taken out. It took them 2 years to get back into the sewer service area.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for Mrs. Shapiro on this topic? Then Mr. Murphy? Yeah.
Turn your mic on.
It's times like this that we need things missed and stuff that it's not only her, I would say everybody, I was just looking around, everybody in this room has done something to the favorable side. And I just want to say, I don't think there's other towns that do this. I just feel we have some kind of special connection with them, and I just want to be appreciating that they're here. Thank you.
Comment. I'm sure they appreciate your appreciation. So I need a motion.
Move it.
Okay, moved by Mr. Peschetti, second by Dr. Greenberg Belli.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Peschitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Next will be C32, Mrs. Brown.
I'll actually skip over C32 because I kind of figured I'll have that conversation offline.
Okay, so then do we have a motion for it?
Move it.
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg Belli, second by Mr. Rizzoli, and I would like to just say thank you to Avril and Himanshu for all the hard work. This was quite an undertaking. The health insurance is never an easy issue to deal with, and I think there was a lot of work put into this, trying to get us the best we can, yet keep everyone covered in a very good way. So thank you both for all that time and effort that was put in. It's very appreciated.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Peschitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Next is C33. First to separate was Mrs. Brown.
Yeah, so I guess the first question is, was there some concern that there was voter fraud recently here?
Do you?
I'm looking at C33.
Yeah.
So in reference to that, it looks like we're trying
you
to.
want clarification as to what brought this about, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was sponsored by Mr. Rizzoli and Dr. Greenberg Belli. So Mr. Rizzoli, do you want to speak first? Okay.
Thank you. The election process in our country, states, and towns is the one and only opportunity for citizens to have their voices heard. Whether friends and family agree with each other's point of view, it is still the privilege and duty to bring about change when needed, or to keep things that are working for us in place. What is happening now and has happened over the years on every level is not only disenfranchising and frustrating, but also a blatant slap in the face to the people of this great country. People who watch and listen to debates, who form their beliefs on what would be in the best interest of their local towns and for the country. People who talk amongst their inner circles and who weigh in on every detail, carefully selecting the candidates that they feel will watch out for them and their future generations. There is an undercurrent of radicalism that seeks to destroy the process, a subculture of influencers and agitators who want nothing more to create chaos and infighting, who want to see the United States Constitution wither away and become eradicated from history. The radical faction views the Constitution as an obstacle to their agenda. I've heard from so many constituents, some who are feeling helpless, but most are enraged over the entire voting process having been turned to shambles by Governor Murphy. Early voting, lost ballots, found ballots, changed ballots, ballot harvesting, multiple ballots from individuals, ballots to the deceased. We've heard all the stories. If the election process through the voices of the people cannot be truthfully and accurately represented in their votes, what else do we have? I encourage the council to pass this resolution calling for voter identification, no mail-in voting, and voting on election day only. No more counting late votes, no flooding mailboxes with ballots like a publisher's clearinghouse application. Return the process to an honorable system for citizens who wait for their chance to be heard and their legal votes to mean something. The fact that we must clarify what is considered legal vote says it all. American citizens choose who govern them. Not Phil Murphy, not the media, and certainly not CEOs of big tech. We the people. Let that never be erased. We must protect and defend our God-given right as Americans for America. Every voice does count. Every legal vote counts to uphold the Constitution of the United States. What we have here is very simple. Voter ID, which can easily be placed on a New Jersey state driver's license, which will secure the integrity of our elections. The reality of it is, this has been a disaster. We had massive fraud during the primary by just arbitrarily and recklessly sending out vote by mails. Patterson's a perfect example. We recently had an arrest in Harnington County for voter fraud. There's nothing wrong with voter ID. That's what prevents people from getting disenfranchised. They're still counting today ballots. This has been a disaster. That's disenfranchising to voters and to American citizens, which, by the way, should be the only people voting. A simple voter ID. This is just for presentation today on the front. You can put it on the back. There's so many places you can put it on a driver's license. I think it gives ample opportunity, and it's common sense. Thank you, Madam President.
Okay, I just had a question in relation to C-33, which is more so, I guess, the first part. Why would we want to prohibit future mail-in voting? Especially, I mean, I think everyone's aware that there's something called COVID-19, so why would, I mean, this probably is not going to get, it's not going to go any farther probably than where we're sitting right now, but still, I'm just curious, why would we want to stop people who vote by mail?
I'd like to certainly speak. So if anyone thinks that this vote by mail charade was due to keep people safe from being affected from COVID, basically, in my opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, doesn't have an ounce of common sense. It has been said many times, if you can stand in line at the motor vehicle office, you can riot, you go to Walmart, Costco, Lowe's, Home Depot, and not get COVID. But if you go to vote in a voting machine on election day, you're going to get COVID. It is absolutely absurd, and it's very disheartening that we've come to this point. Also, the whole process lacks integrity. When you randomly mail out ballots to people, I have no problem with vote by mail if it's done in a proper way. If you want to vote by mail, you should request one. And every time, not because you requested it once, that you randomly just sent it into perpetuity. It is ridiculous and it is disturbing. That's when you have lack of accountability. So if anyone thinks this was done for COVID, they're wrong, because I was a challenger, and I'll tell you what I witnessed that day. When you went in to vote, your time at the voting polling stations was much longer. Not 2 times, not 3 times longer, not 4 times, probably 5 or more times. I calculated that every person that came to vote was there longer than 10 minutes. And they came in contact with, we're all worried about COVID, they came in contact with at least 4 poll workers. So here's what happens. You come in, you don't even have to sign for this. You didn't have to sign for a provisional ballot. It was absurd. The person that came in that I happened to walk in at the same time with, the person wanted to sign. He said, no, you don't know who I am. How do you know who I'm not? I want to sign. And he was very disturbed and upset by it. I tried to explain to him the process because he engaged with me. And then the people that were working at the polling place tried to explain it to him also. He was so upset that he could actually come into a polling place. He said, what if I don't even live here? What if I'm not a registered voter? And what he was told was that they would find out when the ballots came in. Does anyone understand how many ballots came in? It's ridiculous. the chain of command of your ballot, at least touch 4 different people. Whether you mailed it, it went to a postman, it was delivered, picked up, etc. Think about all that. Think about how many times they could be discarded. We saw on the news ourselves how many times mailmen were discarding UPS people just dumping ballots. So no, there's no verification that if you voted, who you voted for got counted and that your vote counted. And that's just the absolute fact. And if you think anything different, you're wrong. Also, I'd like to say, this is a ballot that was sent to my girlfriend's house. Her mother used to live with her. Her mother died 18 years ago. Is that insane that you got a ballot? Well, it doesn't end there, and this is just little old Bridge, and I just hear from people. I have multiple friends that sadly lost their spouses. They all got ballots for their spouses. I have friends whose kids haven't lived at their house for 10 years or more. They all got ballots for them. Also, I have friends that got remarried. They got ballots in their maiden name, and they got ballots in their married name. I have friends that moved into a house, got ballots for the people that used to live there before. So if I've heard all these cases, multiply it. It is just wrong. If you want to vote by mail, you should get the ballot and fill out a form, and they will send it to you. And then you have a signature verification, and then there's a process that you could follow it. So when I went to these polling stations, I stood in the back of the room, and many things entered my mind as I saw people coming in. And when they were sitting down, also keep in mind that a sample ballot was not mailed to people this time. So what happened, they come in, they had to get the provisional ballot. As I said, they went to one person, they were told to go to the polling people, they got a ballot, they were told to go to a table, another person told them where to sit, they sat there. Now they have to read everything. It took a lot of time, unless they would have come in and signed and gone to the polling machine and just voted. Also, there was a person cleaning all the tables after they left. The time, that took so much time. It would have taken no time to swipe it. And in fact, I don't think everyone knows. There was a caller before that talked about, oh, they don't mind spending the money, to do this, the extra money. Well, do you know we've spent the money on all new machines, and they haven't been used yet. You don't even have to touch them as far as being in there. Your finger just is in front of it, and it will register it. But if we use the old machines where you just do it, it would take one swipe after you went out there. It wouldn't have been cleaning the table, wiping down it. It was really ridiculous. So when I was sitting there, I thought, well, maybe, obviously you can't take a picture in a polling place, but if someone were to take a picture of this and you were to hand it out and say, what country do you think this happened in? I don't think anyone would have said it would be the United States of America. But sadly it is. That's where we are at in 2020, all under the guise of COVID. It is absurd and it is ridiculous. I have people calling me every day. I send in my ballot. I don't see that it's counted. I can't follow this process. When you talk about overtime, it's amazing. The individual said, oh, they don't mind spending extra money. They'll be the first one to call here and complain when their taxes go up. And mind you, it's usually from the Board of Education and not from the township, that we've been good stewards of the money. And thank God, because in this time, people should be concerned. They should be concerned about finances because we are in dire straits because of COVID. What it has done to every business in this town. And because of that, it is affecting the budget in this town. People have to pay attention. We are all connected. We are all connected. And we have to be cognizant of that. So then when I went around to all the polling places, and I saw this, I couldn't help but also think of my father and my uncles and everyone from the generation that was in the military during World War II. People that sacrificed their lives for the freedom that we could vote, such an important thing, and now it's been desecrated. We don't have an election day. We have election months. And let's let it go on after the election. They get ballots before this vote by mail. Send them out early. People are voting a month and a half before. When you don't even know what's going on during an election, we see how quick it's changed. We see when things come out. It's just disgusting that you would even do that and not take your vote seriously. And that is the thing, that you have to research everything. You don't just believe what's on the news, because we know they have an agenda also. And it's very sad to think what has happened to this country, and to think that you say, you're being dramatic. It is happening to our country. So when I went to the polling places, I noticed also in the polling places, things aren't consistent, and it's not for any fault of the poll workers. I respect those poll workers. It's a long day. It is a long process. But I will tell you, some of the things that I witnessed, you know that Old Bridge, we have 2 congressional districts, 6 and 12. When I was at one, they were giving the wrong ballots to wrong people. That went on for a very long time. So all those votes meant nothing that those people casted that day. Is that fair? Is that process fair? Then I went, people didn't even know. The Board of Ed was on the back. How many times do I have to tell you? People don't take the Board of Ed seriously, and half the time they don't see it. Then also, as far as this is a very daunting task for seniors to do it, or anyone. Even like, family members were asking questions about it, to do this process, vote by mail, and to make sure that you get it right, because they want to express themselves. They want their vote to count, and they're trying to pay attention to detail, but it does get very confusing. So then at one of the polling stations, I saw also people could bring in their mail-in ballot and put it in the ballot box. So there's a yellow envelope and there's a green envelope. The people that brought in the yellow envelope without the green envelope were told at particular polling stations, no, you can't use that. You can't put it in the box. You have to vote by provisional. That was wrong. It was wrong. So not only did they come in contact with a lot of people, poll workers, the poll workers also, after they filled out the ballot, they took the ballot and they put it in the box. They weren't supposed to do that. So I saw a lot of things. I even saw a poll worker directing someone how to vote. And when they talk about these masks, it's supposed to be over your nose. There's people that have it so wide it's behind the nose. People are mask shaming. It's crazy. We've become very, very disturbing, the things that I saw. So then, actually, I feel that this process should be secure and pure. So when you come to these elections, I understand why this was brought up in voter ID, and everyone goes, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Do you know you have to go to Costco, and you have to have a picture ID to go into Costco? So I looked it up. You know how many countries? Just go home and do this little practice. How many countries require voter ID? I'll just name a few. Guatemala, Brazil, Germany, France, Italy. Are they enough for you? Keep going. You go look it up yourself. So why is everyone so afraid of a voter ID? With the technology today, just like when you go to the airport with your passport, you swipe it, your picture. You can have a voter ID. You can even have something that has a chip in it. You put it into, they would have these machines where a poll worker wouldn't even have to touch it if everyone's so worried about COVID. You put it in and your picture comes up. They go, okay, we know it's you. So I don't understand why so many people are afraid of it. So really, sitting here today, not one of us are 100% sure that when we sent in our vote, the person that we wanted to vote for, that's who that vote was attributed to. You cannot tell me that you know that if you voted by mail 100%. And the way that you know is because when they take this ballot out, they take it out, and then all these go into a slot, and then they go through a machine. So do you know how many times that I've handled? Everyone's watched the news. You saw it time and time again how many people have touched that ballot. The more people that touch it, the more chance something can go wrong. And anyone who is in law enforcement understands that. Then I'll tell you, I was a challenger also in the county one time, and they were putting the ballots through the machine. So I said to them, how do I trust that machine that it wasn't set up that it's going to read something else? I asked them, why don't we sit here and we'll fill out 10 ballots, we'll know what's on them, and put them in the machine just so I'm sure what comes out is what we put in. They wouldn't do it. So this is a very, very sad situation that we have come to. So no one can tell me, really, what happens with a vote by mail. But I know the system that they used in this state at this time takes away your liberties. We still are a free people. We should have a choice. And if you want vote by mail, certainly vote by mail. But you should send in and request it. So it wasn't because of COVID, because when I go to vote on a polling machine, it takes less than 2 minutes. I go inside my name, they can compare the signatures, I go in the machine, and I'm out. And I got a sample ballot before, so I'm prepared also. And so that didn't happen at all. And you know, it is 2 weeks from the election. So I'm not talking about on a national level. That's a whole different story we can go into when we have other countries that are doing the software and counting our ballots. What are we, nuts? But on a local level, 2 weeks later, I still do not know the results of the election. Does anyone think that's good? Does anyone think that is good? Does anyone think anything that I said has validity? Does anyone think that this is the way that you want to vote into perpetuity? Is this any way that you could prepare for an election and have a discussion when we have debates after votes are already cast? What has happened to this country? It is sad we are now a banana republic. And I will tell you what I witnessed at polling stations also, when you took a picture, and if I were to give it to any of you to look at, you would say, this can't be America. Well, this is America now, and really, unless we all get together and put collectively our minds together, and it is not about winners or losers, it is about the integrity of your vote. It is integrity about the election process. That is what I am talking about, and that is what we all have to work for, to know that we have a pure election, and we have the results are the voice of the people, what they voted for. And I would be very, very happy to hear other people's opinions. My email for the township is there on the website, and please get in touch with me, because I know I am not alone in this process, and I know what I've seen before, and there's no reason not to have a voter ID in 2020 when other countries do. We are behind the 8 ball. Everyone always talks about they want to be global. Well, let's get on the bandwagon and have voter ID when other countries have it. Thank you.
Okay, next, Mr. Murphy, and then I'll take John, your microphone, please. Thank you.
Anita, when you get a chance, I realized after I filled my ballot, I couldn't open it up again. But it dawned on me that the piece where we write who we're voting for, we signed that same piece of paper. So they know who we voted for. Anybody wanted to say how much John Murphy voted for, they can go look right on there. Are we allowed, shouldn't we have a secret vote? They were separated? After you signed it, they separated it. Oh, okay. I didn't know
One other thing that I forgot to mention, you can't even imagine all the calls that I got from people that are registered voters that didn't get their ballot. So I am telling you, this process was confusing and created chaos, and it wasn't necessary.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Pescetti, did you have a comment as well?
Yes. There's so many things. I'll just give you my personal experience. I voted by mail. I put my ballot in the secure box at the Municipal Center right here. And then a few weeks later, I went online on the Middlesex County line to find out if my ballot was counted. Well, it said that I wasn't a registered voter. So now I've been a registered voter in Old Bridge for most of my life. So I called the county, and they did fix it. They made some sort of error. They couldn't tell me who made the error, but I waited a week later and then checked it, and it said that my ballot wasn't received. So just on a one-off, the mail-in ballot system, it's not as accurate as it ought to be for our country that is so advanced technology-wise. It's just ridiculous. We're like in the dark ages here with the elections. Elections are sacred. We have to know and feel that our vote counts and that we get to elect our leaders. And there's just so much stuff going on now that it makes it very concerning that are our votes counting? I always had good confidence in our election system. I've been a poll worker for over 20 years, and I felt that we had a pretty good system. The mail-in ballots I never liked, and I never liked the provisional ballots because once you put your ballot in that envelope and you sign and you send it in, now it's up to the Board of Elections to handle that ballot correctly and making sure that it gets counted. The problem that I see is that once they open up that envelope and they take the ballot out, they throw away that envelope. That envelope is where your signature is verified that you were you, and then that ballot is legal and it could be counted. The problem is that they throw away the envelope and then they pile up the ballots. So those ballots have no identifier. So they're just raw ballots. And it just leaves the door open for election fraud. Because all of a sudden you can have another box of ballots, and there's no way to verify that those ballots are legal. So it's very concerning. And now that in New Jersey that we did all mail-in ballots, it just adds to that concern. So on this, we have on our consent agenda, C-33, I would like the attorney to change the wording from voter fraud to election fraud, because it isn't the voters that are being fraudulent, it's the process that is possibly fraudulent. Okay, so we shouldn't be saying voter fraud. It's not voter fraud. People are voting, honestly. It's the process. So the wording should be election fraud, not voter fraud. Right? Does that make sense, Mr. Rizzoli?
You want me to comment?
Yeah, please.
Excuse me, Mr. Skenny, but if people are getting these people, my friend had integrity and honesty, but you don't know whether someone's sending in all these extra ballots that were sent down. That's what Mr. Rizzoli explained about harvesting also. You take an apartment building, for example, in a town, that you have people moving in and out of apartment buildings. There was thousands of ballots just dumped at these apartment buildings. You don't know. The thing is, as I said before, we do not know. I don't want to think that people vote illegally, but we don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
Mr. Murphy, your microphone's not on.
Turn your mic on.
I remember years ago, you had to either use your license or your voter registration card to go on a cruise or a plane or anything. That was that important back then. It means nothing now.
The county used to have
If
voter
they even
ID.
have a voter registration card anymore.
Right. They used to have the ID. They don't have it any longer, the county.
Thank you.
For the attorney, I would just like to see that verbiage changed. Also, if you read that, you have the word "not" in one of the last paragraphs, and it makes the paragraph very confusing. So if you would just read over that.
It's council's resolution,
Right.
whatever change you guys want to make.
I don't know
is up
where
to
it
you.
came from. I mean, did it go through legal?
Yeah, but, you change it the way you want to change it. I just, you guys do what you need to do.
And wait, before Mr. Rizzoli, does anyone else, Mrs. Walker?
Yes, I'm definitely going to be supporting this resolution tonight. I had the opportunity to work at the polls on Election Day, and what I saw was horrifying. People did have to spend quite a little bit of time there. They were very upset. There was a machine there, but it was only for disabled people, and they were very upset that they could not go into the machine and vote. We had almost 600 people in the one polling location. One woman had come in, and she had 3 ballots that she had received in her name. Luckily, she had a conscience and she didn't vote with them. But how many people do we not know about that received multiple ballots and sent them back? I believe we should have absentee ballots where you request it and you get it for a reason. But you shouldn't have this mass, because we don't know what's happening to these ballots. People, I've heard so many cases of people got them in their maiden name, their married name, children that don't live there any longer. And even if you send in a mail-in ballot, you should have to send ID with it. There should be some kind of accountability to your vote. It's a very important right that we have here to vote, and it feels like we live in a third world country now. It's not even taken seriously. So many people came in and they were trying to hand us ID at the polls, and we're like, no, you don't have to show us ID. How unbelievable is that? They were just given a ballot and they could vote. No ID required. It's just unbelievable. We should definitely have some form of ID to vote. I feel like our liberties were taken away during this election cycle by the governor. It should be my choice to decide if I wanted to go to the polls and vote. And if I wanted to request a ballot, I could have requested one, because it was so much more at risk at this situation than if we would have went into a machine and voted. I think we should go back to the old school machines where they had the clicker, you just push the button. They can't be messed with through computers. Because we don't know what's happening to our vote. I sent my ballot away a month ago, and I have no idea if my vote was cast or what happened to it. And I think it's a real sin what's happened in our country. It's very scary and frightening to me, and I really hope that the whole country makes a national mandate that you must have voter ID.
Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Anyone else that hasn't spoken? Everyone else is good. Mr. Rizzoli.
Yeah, I just want to give a couple cases of voter frauds. That seems to be the discussion that's breaking out here. Voter fraud in Patterson, July of 20, where a Superior Court judge did rule that a new election was required as a result of an investigation performed by the United States Postal Service, which found hundreds of mail-in ballots in a Patterson mailbox. 800 ballots were discounted by the Passaic County Board of Elections. Another 2,300 ballots were rendered ineligible, thereby disqualifying 3,100 votes. In Sussex County, election officials found approximately 1,600 primary ballots stuffed in a bin uncounted for months after the July primary, which made national news. And as far as Governor Murphy, if he was really concerned about this as being a COVID issue, he would have never had a voter registration kiosk installed into a hospital. Okay, the reality of it is, it's all about his own radical agenda pushing it upon us. Okay, he's made a mockery of our electoral system, turned it to third world, like the councilwoman mentioned. Third world, we still don't even have election results to this day, and that should be unacceptable. I don't know what the issue is with voter ID. If you're really concerned about integrity of our election process, then voter ID is the answer. And I call upon our other representatives in Trenton, time to step up, be heard, represent your constituents. I'm getting calls, I'm getting emails. People are getting disenfranchised. They feel their vote doesn't matter. That's why we're doing this today. Okay, to all the people who reached out for me, I did respond. I'm your voice. There needs to be voter ID. It's time other elected officials step up. Whether you're in the minority or not, you could speak and be heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Is there anyone else from the council? Mr. Pischetti?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to go on record. I am supporting this. I am absolute support of this.
Move it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we have Mr. Rizzoli made a move and motion, and Dr. Greenberg-Belli made a second.
Ms. Brown?
No.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg-Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Flip the days.
Off days.
Off dais. Mr. Pischetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes. Here comes Mr. Murphy.
You want me to wait for him to come back to get a vote? Mr. Murphy, can you identify your vote for Resolution C-33? Yes?
Yes, right? Feel it right? You have candy in your...
President, we have 7 ayes and 1 no.
You have candy in your bag. That little gift bag, there's a mint. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Next will be discussion items for ordinances for first reading. An ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge, New Jersey, rescinding and replacing Chapter 273 of the Township Code.
Council President Damian Gill, our zoning officer, will give you a brief explanation, but basically we're trying to prevent, and Pat Reardon is also here, our construction official, but the goal is to restrict the mobile vendors in many places. There are unsafe conditions. They're competing with our existing restaurant business owners.
Okay, thank you very much. Good evening.
Yeah, if I could, Madam President, before Damien continues, just a couple things. I think the idea is that I think everyone drives around the township, sees there's been a proliferation of these food trucks. What we had noticed was that the ordinance, the code book was, to be polite, sparse relative to how they operate. And we also had noticed that there was no distinction made between what I'll refer to as a stationary food truck versus the person who comes into a town on occasion to sell ice cream, so to speak, like a Mr. Softy or thing like that. So I think a host of individuals got together and came up with various ideas to address both of those issues. So both what I'll refer to as the more stationary food truck and the the mobile, and the ordinance, it's referred to as an ice cream truck vendor. So this ordinance, what it seeks to do is to address both of those issues, both relative to, more so with respect to the food truck, the stationary, where they can operate, safety precautions that should be implemented, and ensuring that where they're placed, that it has the approval and consensus of those property owners in the vicinity, and then also with respect to the ice cream truck individuals, they obviously wouldn't be subject to the stationary, but it's also a process for them to receive and do an application, and then it also sets up, there's a companion ordinance with this that sets up the fees associated with the application on an annual basis. So I just want to thank, just so you know, Pat, Damien, and Vina put a lot of time and energy in putting the ordinance together. Made my life a lot easier. Thanks, team.
Thank you. That's the presentation. Hi. Good evening, everyone, members of the council, Mr. Shaw, the mayor, and thank you for that introduction, Mr. Roselli. So, as an opening statement, over the past few years, and probably the last year, as Mr. Roselli said, that there has been a proliferation and kind of a surge in mobile food wagons and mobile lunch wagons. There's a bunch of host terms that we can use. And that prompted some safety concerns, some questions about how some of these places opened up, and pursuant to that, the administration tasked us and a group of people in the township to look at the ordinance. And there were several things that we noticed. We noticed that some of the food trucks were storing vehicles on a property. We noticed that multiple food trucks were operating at different times on singular sites. We noticed that there was a couple of locations where the placement may have been hazardous and unsafe. Accessory improvements were starting to crop up on some of the establishments that have been around a little bit longer to try to make their services a little bit more palatable or interesting or dynamic. But all of these things affected potentially the site plan and maybe not created safety considerations or safety concerns, but certainly things that probably should have been considered beforehand. And with that as a backdrop, there were several concerns which were kind of already identified. We wanted to locate food trucks along major corridors to maximize their exposure while limiting, I think Mr. Shaw used the term restricting, but limiting the impact to residential neighborhoods and the smaller commercial corridors that are established in town that are suffering, not just because of COVID, but just in general. You know, we're looking to constantly improve. Vina's been before you, and the engineering office has been before you plenty of times, trying to create new and dynamic things for the commercial enterprises here in Old Bridge. We wanted to do everything reasonably possible to provide for the safe and orderly operation of these lunch wagons, and we wanted to properly establish objective standards. One of the things that Mr. Roselli said, which is very true, is being polite. The ordinance was sparse. It was established in 1973, and I think everybody remembers a story or has a story of someone who was either a veteran or a retiree looking to kind of do something, and they established this little side business. But now, today, Food Network will tell us that this is big business. There's a lot of people that are operating these. They're operating them in very, very sophisticated ways. These are big business operations. And as such, it only made sense to look at our ordinance and try to modernize those standards and create situations where we could engage in enforcement actions if it was necessary, and hopefully just create a standard that everyone can kind of agree to and operate kind of succinctly. That being said, there is a companion ordinance that establishes the fees. I don't know if we have to talk about that separately. But the changes were enumerated and I think presented on the Novus items. So at this point, I'd like to say that we're done presenting. If you have any questions, I'm here to field those questions, and so is Mr. Reardon, our construction official.
Okay.
So if I can just follow up, basically FR1 is the substantive changes, and that deals with the, there's a general definition of what a mobile food vendor is, and then that's broken out into subcategories of a food truck and ice cream truck. And basically, the ordinance requires that there be a license or there be an annual renewal. And as Damien said, relative to the food truck, they would have to meet certain requirements in the ordinance, including having proper insurance, sales and use tax certificate, background checks, being subject to our food and beverage certificate, which is basically the fee component. That's the companion ordinance. Also having sufficient, as I said, liability insurance, that they be placed at locations, and they would have to provide a sketch plan as part of the review process. And then also, obviously, if you're operating these food trucks, it's like a mini restaurant. You know, they'd have to meet the health department's requirements as well. Then FR2, which is the companion, basically breaks out the two different categories and establishes the fees associated with those two trucks, those two categories. So that's basically a matter of an amendment of putting in the new terminology for FR2, and then actually the fees, I think, stayed the same. One of the fees went up?
No, one of the fees went up. The stationary or the food truck, that went up. In FR1.
Okay.
No. Is it FR1? No, I think it's FR1.
So anyway, that's registration fee. Yeah.
But the ice cream trucks remain the same.
So FR2 also speaks to the health inspection and the registration of food and beverage. Those fees, I believe, did not go up.
They did not, correct. All those fees stayed the same.
And I think to just expand on that a little bit, Mr. Roselli, if I can, one of the things that we learned because of the ordinance being so sparse is that policies were developed, procedures were developed in the municipal clerk's office to kind of try to address the gaps. So a lot of the new changes that you see are just standardizing them and making them part of the ordinance so that we can actually enforce them, because right now we really can't.
Now, any of the council have questions? Mr. De Palma?
So how does this match up against our surrounding townships?
I wish Vina was here for that one. She did that research. My understanding is that Vina Sawant, the planner, who really is the principal author of this document, researched other municipalities to find what was working and what was not working in those towns. To the extent that that made it into our ordinance, I really can't, or this draft, I can't say for sure, but we did look at that and we did engage in that exercise to try to not reinvent the wheel and to try to find compatibility, because a lot of these businesses do operate in multi-jurisdictions. So to the extent that's practical for Old Bridge, making that the same process or similar process makes it easier, ideally.
I only ask because my biggest concern is the fact that all of these places are on wheels, and you could pretty much go 25 yards down the block on Route 9 and be in a different township. So I just want to make sure that we're kind of in line with all our surrounding townships as well, because you can physically move it. You can't move a restaurant that's brick and mortar. You can move a truck.
That's true. One of the things that we did was we put in limitations for how close they can be to one another along these corridors. I don't know if that's enforceable across a municipal boundary, but we're trying to the best of our ability. Nah, I don't think it can cross the municipal border, but yeah.
Are you through, Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Anyone else from council have a question? Mr. Peschetti?
Yeah, since we weren't given the old ordinance, I don't know what the difference is between the old ordinance and the new ordinance. I'm just going to, okay.
Mr. Peschetti, frankly, I mean, I know you can go online. Literally, it may have been, I don't know, 5 chapters or 5 sections. And basically
3-page document, the original.
It didn't say much other than if you're a lunch wagon mobile
lunch wagon,
and then that's the way it would be entitled, and it says that you have to get a permit, and that you apply to the clerk's office, and there was limited. I mean, when I talk about limited, there was hardly any guidance relative to what we now require.
Okay, so I read the new one, and it said that you couldn't have a picnic table. And I know in my ward there's a hot dog stand on 516, and she's put a picnic table there, I noticed. So,
yes.
2 picnic tables. So,
yes.
Yeah, so are people grandfathered in, or when they go to do their new registration, they have to abide by the new rules? How does that work?
They would have to comply with the new rules.
Correct.
There's no grandfather provision.
When they re-register, they have to, okay, are we going to warn these folks that this new ordinance is coming in? As soon as it's adopted. Okay, and the old registration fee versus the new fee, what is the difference?
$400. It was a $100 fee. It is now a $500 fee. I believe
Wow.
the last time that ordinance was changed was in 2006.
Okay, so that's a big jump. And what's the justification for that big jump?
I don't know that there was
Well, I tell you, one of the big increase is the amount of additional checking that we're doing internally, right, relative to all the requirements that they have to meet, relative to the different reviews that have to go on. The way it is now, there's certain items that weren't being reviewed. So now you're going to have more departments involved in the review process. There's additional items that they have to provide. So we try to correlate the fee. It's certainly not going to cover it, But I can tell you there's more review going on in the municipality than had happened before. So that's the justification for the increase for the the stationary food truck, so to speak.
Okay, so going back to the hot dog lady as an example, she has her trailer pulled in with her vehicle. So the new ordinance says that no vehicle could be parked there with your truck. So how do you deal with that? I mean, has she got to get a ride now?
No, I believe the ordinance says that no vehicles other than the vehicle that's used to tow if it's not powered under its own power.
Oh, okay.
Because that's one of the conversations internally we had. If you had a trailer that doesn't move under its own power, you need to be able to move it to the location, and we want it taken away at the end of the day. So that's you do need that vehicle. What we don't want is we don't want a situation where a yard becomes kind of a storage yard or a parking lot becomes a storage lot. We do have a couple that have stored excess vehicles there, pertinent mechanical structures. I think we had a barbecue spot that was storing grills, or a secondary trailer that had support equipment for them to cook, and we don't want that to happen.
I see. Okay, and also on FR2, I noticed that you eliminated Italian ice trucks. What was the reason for that?
2 Italian ice structures. 1 second, sir.
Sure.
What was that, Mr. Piscitti?
You struck the wording ice truck.
Italian ice?
Italian ice trucks. Now it just says ice cream trucks.
Right, because it makes it consistent with the definition of ice cream truck in the ordinance. So if you, in
It's assumed,
FR1,
right?
Right, so,
So you're assuming that an Italian ice truck is an ice cream truck?
correct, because it's in the definition, if you look at FR1, an ice cream truck is defined to include the sale of ice cream, popsicle, ice, sherbet, frozen desserts, beverages. So that wouldn't be included. And so we just carried to be consistent, and consistency is always good, so that you can follow the, ball, so to speak. We just used that definition so that there's
Yeah, there was wildly
verification.
different terminology in the ordinances as you
Okay.
looked at them.
All right,
in
so
total.
let me go back to that registration fee, $500 fee. That fee, is that every year, or is it like there a renewal fee and the 500 is the initial?
No, it's an annualized fee. That's the renewal fee.
Okay, so, these guys, I'm sure they're not you said it's big business, but that hot dog lady, I don't know, she makes $500 profit in a couple of months, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that seems to be exorbitant, to go from $100 to $500.
This is why this is important discussion. If the council feels the fee is high and they want to set a slightly lower fee, I don't think that administration will be opposed to that. But I think that our analysis shows that this is reasonable, what is being charged by other municipalities. Am I right?
No, you don't have to be an Oak Ridge resident.
Tony? Are you through?
Those are all my questions.
That's another point, that they're competing with the local
Distinct.
established businesses.
Microphone, John, please.
John, you
John?
gotta turn your mic on when you talk.
Thank you, John.
This isn't considered a small business?
I don't think anyone's saying that. I think what Mr. Shaw was saying is that it's a business enterprise that's competing with our strained local businesses.
Oh, no, I mean, we just raised them $400. I don't think that's helping small businesses.
I think Mr. Shaw just said that if the fee is the concern, I think that the administration, Mr. Shaw, am I correct, is not opposed to you guys making whatever recommendations or changes you want. I think that Mr. Roselli also said that it correlates to the increased reviews that we've done. I don't know 100% if the fees match up with the other municipalities. I know like I said, we engaged in that exercise of comparing municipalities and the ordinances that may exist, but this is what we felt was reasonable and presented. Again, the fees haven't been changed since 2006, and there are a lot more reviews. Before it was just, you need this, you need that, but you didn't have a way to get from this to that. Now we've established concrete standards, and I think there's as many as 3 or 4 departments that can be involved in one review process.
Yeah, so what you did is you created all this information and created work for the township employees, and you're passing off the fee to the, it just seems to be exorbitant. I would like to make a request of making it $125 or $150 instead of $500.
Wait, one at a time, okay? Everybody, one at a time.
I think we all feel that way. Maybe we should table it and then have a discussion instead of
Well,
shouting.
they want to move it because of the safety concerns and all the other concerns of these trucks. They want to move it.
Okay, there's 2 things. I will take, when we do our review, it is not intended to create more work for the township staff or add more staff. Has nothing to do with it. We review the information, we review the requests from the businesses in town. This is all reactions to that. When you have a truck, this food truck sitting on the highway with the small parking spots, and now we have trucks stopping on a highway on the side, creating a blind spots situation in the area. These are the real concern. Now, the second part is that, yes, we like you to move this, move it up for first reading, because the second reading, we only have one more meeting in December, and then, an adoption. Otherwise, we can't introduce at next meeting.
Well, am I mistaken in what I'm hearing? I think it's not the fact of the safety. I think people understand that as far as, like you're saying, parking on the shoulder, this and that. I think the crux from what I'm getting here, and I could be wrong, is that the fee is the sticking point at this point. Am I correct? Are there other issues that people have?
Are they talking about safety
Well,
issues?
I have just.
They don't want to talk about safety
I just want to
issues.
revisit one thing with the picnic tables, first of all. But before I go to that, I just want to make it clear. Say like someone has a party and they have a food vendor come to their house. They're paying that food vendor. That food vendor doesn't fall into this category.
No, it does not.
They do not. Okay. So I want to establish that.
Nor, I'm sorry, too, nor would they, if, for instance, if there's a township event where.
Or a
event-
festival.
Or a festival.
Mass
Right.
assembly.
Right.
Mass assembly,
Carnivals.
where they're invited, that doesn't apply to them either.
Specifically
make that
prohibits,
clear.
exempts them.
So right now, how many food vendors that we know of are in town?
I think we have 10 or 11 that are currently active. And we've had, I think, 50. Yeah, and yeah, and we've had, I think, as many as 3 or 4 that were operational at some point throughout the year, but have ceased operations since we've started this exercise, or maybe even before that because Corona, I'm not sure.
Okay, and then the next thing is that I heard there's a concern about the picnic tables there. Is that correct? That you don't want the picnic tables?
Yes.
Not allowed.
But what if they're paying rent to someone's property? It's their property. What if the owner of the property says, I want these picnic tables there? How can we stop them from doing that?
That's a great question, Councilwoman.
Well, there's 2 different issues, right? So if you have a property owner, and you're saying the property owner already has the tables there?
No, the property owner just says, I want to put picnic tables there.
Right, so it's the property owner's tables.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the property owner's tables, but not the vendor's tables.
Right.
Well, there's a distinction, right?
So obviously, we know what's going to happen. But
the property owner has to have the ability to have those picnic tables. That's the difference. So when a property owner comes in with a site plan, and presumably as part of that site plan, they would have been able to have those picnic tables there. So that's the difference. Here you have a situation where, and if somebody happens to use that site, if they're permitted, for this food truck, well, then that's a bonus. It's not their tables, but that property owner had already received the township's permission to have those food tables there. So that's the difference.
But why would you, if it's your property, I'm trying to understand this, why would they need permission to put a picnic table on their property?
Again, it depends. It depends in their zone, where they are, if it's part of their approval process. I mean, it's not but that's the only answer I can give, because it would be site specific, right? I wouldn't know, or we wouldn't know, unless someone chooses a particular site that has a particular use on it. And it's like anything. It may very be that you can't have multiple uses. And so it's all going to depend on the site, what's there, and what they try to do. And we won't know that until we cross that issue. And I think like it's anything else, right? So what we're trying to accomplish here is take something that we really didn't have any type of regulation, create a framework that works for the township, and the vendor has a better idea. And then, like any new ordinance, there may need to be tweaks along the way, right? Because there are going to be situations that come up that we didn't anticipate.
I say tweak it now, before we go any further, and
I
strike
say-
the picnic tables.
I say everybody should be treated equal if it's their property, and I kind of agree with Anita. We have to table this. We have nowhere near enough information. If they want to start looking at places for safety reasons, I can look at a lot of places.
John, really, as far as the explanation for not tabling it was pretty clear, and why not to table? We can make changes to it. It's not, I don't think it would be a problem. My question was just about the picnic tables. Obviously, there's a way to get around the picnic tables for people, just so you were aware, because the owner could say, I want those picnic tables there. So that's why I was pointing.
There should be
Obviously,
one
with these
standard
with the
thing.
food vendors, normally, most people do come in, take their food, get in their car, and they're on their way. You know, so
can't come up
so
with a
there's
thing like that, though.
there's a question for that, but
Yeah,
so-
some people just want to sit there and eat their hot dog.
People don't,
You know,
you
and
have
some
to
people
have
don't.
the
That's
same
right. But,
thing.
you know,
All right,
why are we being so restrictive?
All right,
I mean,
let's-
you know,
Thing of its own.
Okay, let's go one at a time. Now, I acknowledged you, Mrs. Walker. Go ahead.
I just want to ask, I understand you don't want to have a lot of picnic tables there, but why wouldn't they be allowed just one? Some people might have a new vehicle and they don't want to eat in their car. Like, why not just one picnic table?
Okay. The supposition in land use is that if you're going to make changes to a site, if you're going to make upgrades, improvements, reconfigure different elements of the site, you need to go through the process that we commonly refer to as site plan approval, where you're vetted by one of the municipal boards. That would be a ridiculous proposition for a food truck that operates a small business. And in 1973, the township created the mobile lunch wagon to circumvent that process, to not require a food vendor who's going to operate on a site that's commercially controlled by a site plan, presumably, if it doesn't predate our ordinance, to cut out all that red tape. But in doing so, we've cut out so much red tape, I think Mr. Roselli we had nothing to regulate when people ran afoul. What is acceptable on one piece of property in terms of one table may not be acceptable on another piece of property if they're putting it in the middle of a parking lot. There is a process and a procedure to vet that called site plan approval, which is onerous for this type of application. So by producing this ordinance and then making these restrictions, we prevent those things from happening. Now, if a landlord or a property owner either has the approval in place or wishes to seek that approval, then it'll be properly vetted by our engineering staff, by our planning staff, and they'll make those changes as part of a site plan, but not for an individual. And unless they have that approval, we wouldn't be recognizing that as legitimate. So while I understand that it appears more restrictive, it really cuts out a very expensive and timely land use procedure to allow these food trucks, because it is tantamount to a pad site. It's an Applebee's in a parking lot in front by the corridor. It's mobile and it can go away tomorrow, and because of that, they don't want them to go through the same process. And that's why we haven't proposed to prohibit that.
That's obvious, though, Damie. That's obvious. But the pendulum is swung all the way on the other side now, and now you're coming down on these food trucks with all these restrictions. And I think it's onerous. You know, a picnic table is portable. You can pick it up and take it away. Okay, this is not site plan.
Agreed, and that's why, like I said, we don't require the site plan. But if you have a porta-john, and they don't regularly service it, how do you control that? Because that was one of the complaints we got with the hot dog license. It wasn't being cleaned regularly. It was unsanitary, and people complained. They said, you use those at your own risk.
But you don't follow your own rules. You change them constantly. I've had 5 complaints. One person wanted this, one wanted the other. You don't seem to standardize things, and I'm going to sit here and do that for you? No way. I don't mean you, I mean the department. I still have a big problem with it.
Councilman,
All right.
Councilman,
All right.
please.
If I could just,
No, this
Mr.
is,
Shaw.
this is,
Yeah,
no,
no.
just because there is somebody who is complaining doesn't mean that they are doing anything counterproductive to what the township needs.
Let's do that. Let's start conversation after, if you want to.
So you have to, if I could, what you have to remember is that these food trucks are being located on properties that have, like Damien said, have prior approval, right? So that, when that business, whatever it was, located at that particular site, at that time, it wasn't anticipated that there'd be a food truck there, because it wasn't intended to be a food truck to be there. So unless you want to have, a community that's pervasive with food trucks and they can do what they want, and that's certainly your option.
But
I wouldn't recommend it.
That's what we're addressing, Mark, right?
Well, that's exactly right. But
okay, but we just don't want to be so
no.
onerous
Excuse
that-
me. Let me speak. So the idea is that you are trying to treat everybody the same. You're trying to address a situation where something that had been anticipated and improved is now being changed, and you can see these food trucks are becoming quite elaborate. It's not just a hot dog stand anymore. So if a hot dog stand that has a vehicle with a trailer, with a couple of picnic benches, with a couple of trash receptacles, all of a sudden it's a restaurant. That's what you have. And yeah, but you have a restaurant on a site that wasn't intended for it. I agree. Well, that's what we're trying to corral, because that's your decision. Because if, God forbid, there's an accident at that site and it's operating, you know who's going to be liable? You are. So that's the reason for the wanting to have these types of.
I want to make a motion, either we get this thing straightened out tonight, which I don't think is going to happen because they came with bogus information.
No, nobody has bogus information, Mr. Murphy.
Will every place get to put the same thing, or this one can have a table, this one can't? This one can have an air conditioner.
If the way the ordinance is drafted, everyone would be treated the same. That's
you didn't say that.
No, I did say that. That's the intent of the ordinance.
No, it's
right now.
But if they don't have it, they can now get a table.
No.
Why can't they have a table if somebody else has one?
Again.
No one's going to be able to have a table.
You cannot. The point is that if there is a site.
Okay, well then we're not doing what what we told the people that we're doing. There's many reasons for this. If they would have came back and they knew the answer, I wouldn't have a problem. We asked them how many ice cream trucks. We didn't look at that. I asked them something else. We didn't look at that. I was never allowed to do this.
No, actually, there's only one question which we didn't have the response to, and that was looking at the neighboring communities. But we gave you the number of food trucks that are operating in the township. We had that number. It was 11.
Now 10.
Now 10.
Right. Well.
And Ms. Want could not be present because she had a personal matter to attend to. But knowing the way Vina does her work, I know I can sit here knowing full well that she would have surveyed the surrounding communities to review those what they have and to implement an ordinance that is right for Old Bridge Township and the way Old Bridge Township taking recognition of what other communities may have. That I can sit here with 100% certainty.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. De Palma.
Mr. Roselli, sometimes known as Roselli. So if we move this up, we can still tweak the fee. Am I correct on that?
Again, as long as there's not substantive stuff. But
I think everybody needs to understand. I understand the argument of the restaurant who actually pays a lease and that food truck just rolls into a parking lot, where you have a business paying an establishment paying a lease, Now you have competition by a food truck. So we have to take their side of this under consideration too, because they're paying the least. You know, everybody's having trouble right now with the COVID. So, like Damien just said, it's a moving restaurant on wheels. So they could just get up and pull away. Well, we still have our establishments in town who are paying leases, who are invested in our community. We still have a responsibility to also protect them. But we can work through this where we can make the ordinance, affordable for everyone. I think arguing about it's not going to resolve this, but we have to maintain the fact that we do have established restaurants in this township that pay leases, that are struggling right now. Well, like you said, and paying taxes, right? And a food truck can just drive off and go find another spot. So we do have a responsibility to the people invested in our community. So as long as we can adjust the fee, I have no problem moving it up.
Certainly going down is
Right.
is not, would not be a substantive change that would not allow it to go forward if you decide to change it upon adoption.
Mr. De Palma?
No, my inquiry is the same thing as if we move this up, could we make tweaks to the ordinance? So, no.
Okay. Anyone else have a comment? Mr.
Yes,
Mayor
thank you,
Henry.
Council. This is all about, safety. And if we could look into an establishment that could safely place a picnic table, that was my concern, that these picnic tables are placed within 5, 10, 15 feet of a roadway and some dangerous areas where people are unprotected. Now, if they can protect a picnic table, like we established the outdoor dining have to, but just to put a picnic table along a dangerous stretch of roadway is dangerous.
Yeah.
So that's always our concern with the picnic tables.
Yeah.
But we can be flexible, and if a
Right.
site approved that can protect a picnic table where someone pulling in, hitting the brake or hitting the gas accidentally could run, and then, as Mark said, we'd be responsible.
No,
We'd be
safety's-
liable. It's all about liability for the property owner and the township.
And
The
there's-
the DOT would never approve a picnic table 15 foot from a roadway. So,
No.
and we have them.
Yeah.
They're on dangers, and I go past them and I cringe.
Of course, no, of course.
So,
Yeah, no, safety is
no, I
the
think we should
paramount
allow
issue here.
food vendors, yes.
Yeah.
We should. And if someone could place, never mind.
No,
I make a motion to move
Second.
it forward.
Second.
okay, so,
Oh.
no.
Are you withdrawing your motion, Mr. Murphy?
Mr. Murphy?
Mr. Murphy, are you withdrawing your motion?
Okay,
Motion withdrawn.
okay, so,
So,
motion.
Councilwoman Greenberg suggested a table. That's what I heard. So,
When we.
I don't know if she asked for a motion.
No, I did not ask for a motion. I said that something when everyone was saying the different problems, then Mr. Shaw explained that we can change things later, and explain the timeline. So it's in our best interest to move this forward and then make our changes. And so do our research, and we'll have the information and make any changes.
Could I
we need
make
to.
us,
Did you have something? Okay. All right, Miss,
yeah, tweak is not
Mrs.
substantial.
Walker,
Can I make a
also-
suggestion?
Yes.
It seems like, it
I make a
seems to
motion to
me
move
that, that seems to be the complaints are the fee is too high and the possibility of maybe picnic tables. So how about save some time if we could possibly maybe email Mr. Shaw or Mrs. Sohor about and then we could, next time we come to the meeting, because I seems to be, that seems to.
yeah, that's what I said
contention here.
before, the crux seems to be the
Yeah,
fees.
Those
and-
two
and-
things, so I think we could move it forward.
Right.
And then voice our concerns, it seems to be the two concerns, and next time when it's presented,
Well,
it'll
this
have the
is-
opinions.
All right, all right, I'm just going to give this one last bite. Mr. Pischetti,
Oh,
and
okay, so this is for the attorney, but he's having a sidebar there. So
Well,
my
the clerk
question
needs
would
to
be,
know.
he said we could tweak it, but it can't be anything substantial. So substantial would be $100 to $500 would be a substantial
No.
change in the
No,
fee.
no.
saying no.
No, that wouldn't be substantial.
The
Substantial
fees-
mean, as to the intent, substantial is as to the intent of the ordinance, right? So we know right now the intent was to have the fee. So something substantial would be if you had no fee. and all of a sudden you're saying you're going to charge $1,000 fee. I want to change. Here, you have the fee, it's set at 500, and if you're going to move it back, well, now it's getting easier, right? They already know the fee's out there. So by reducing it, if you were to reduce it, that's not a substantial change because the intent of the ordinance hasn't changed. The amount being charged is being reduced.
Okay, and in regards to the picnic tables.
Right. Again, that would be similar, would not be. Another example of substantial change is if you change the locations where they are permitted, right? That would be something where the intent of the ordinance, depending on the extent, that would be something significant. But adding something like that would not be a substantial change.
Okay, so I'm comfortable moving it forward.
Thank you, Mr.
Everyone,
Piscitty.
okay. We're going to,
Yeah, we can tweak it next, first reading.
yeah. Second reading.
What we're doing, they're asking for a motion for purposes of introducing an ordinance entitled, an ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge, New Jersey, rescinding, replacing Chapter 273 of the Township Code.
Okay, so do I have a motion? I believe, did you make the motion, Dr. Greenberg? Okay, and who seconded it? Mr. Rizzoli? Okay.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy? Yes. Mr. Piscitty?
Good discussion, yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohor?
Yes, and I would like to thank Debbie for that suggestion, Mrs. Walker. I think it's a very good one. So if anyone has any questions from council, please reach out to us so that when we come back next time, we have a good feel as to where everyone stands about this. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, Council President, if we could, FR2 is the companion one.
Right.
Again, nothing's being changed other than the definition, so the fees aren't being changed.
Right.
So if it would make sense to move
it.
an ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge amending Chapter 203 of the Code of the Township of Old Bridge entitled Food and Beverages for introduction as well.
Mr. Rizzoli, did you make them?
Second.
Okay, and second, Mr. Pescetti. Okay.
I have one comment. Can we notify, since there's only 10 trucks, can we notify them what's happening? So they can respond and maybe come to the council meeting and
Of course.
give us some input on second reading?
Of course.
Yeah, we'd have to call, unless it's over in 2 weeks.
All right, so
So,
Let me get Mr. Rizzoli moved. Who seconded?
I did.
Mr. Pescetti.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohor?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Okay, next will be
Thank you.
FR3, an ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge, County of Middlesex. Oh,
Good evening, Council.
Hi,
Mr.
good
Mayor.
evening. We'll be right with you. I didn't realize. Just give us 1 second. Thank you, Captain. Okay, we're good? All right. Okay, let me know when you're, no, Gab, that's fine. Okay, no, listen here. Okay, an ordinance of the Township of Old Bridge, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 5, Article 8 of the Code of the Township of Old Bridge entitled Department of Police by rescinding and replacing 5-109 extra duty assignments. Good evening, Captain Mandola.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Shah. This ordinance, the original ordinance right now as it stands, is very simple and vague. This new revision of the ordinance will define further the outside employment of the officers and will also give the police department the ability to hire a third-party company to put forth our administrative fees and our abilities to hire outside officers for outside businesses. As it stands now, when a company needs to hire us for road jobs or security or whatnot, they make a call, officers get that call, and we work with them and coordinate what needs to be done, and the scheduling officer, then our administrative officer then has to do the billing, invoicing, and then receive the money and then turn it into the township for payment to the town for administrative fees and for the officer salaries. We've had many issues where 2, 3, 4 months will go by before an officer will get paid or we see any money from these companies. Extra Duty Solutions Company, they're in approximately 50 towns within the state of New Jersey right now and about 14 states. What they do, they come in and all our fees that we charge, basically it's our officer's salary, the administrative fee, and the vehicle fee. And then they would tack on what we're going to go into contract with them, a 7% fee for their handling of this. What they do, they will assign a liaison to work with our officer and administration. Any business, well, we will give them our entire list of vendors that we work with right now, and they will contact all of them so they all know that now this agency, Extra Duty Solutions, will be the point of contact. They need a road officer for a road job or for security, they will contact them. They will have the list, they will have everything how we do our assignments. They will handle it from A to B, A to Z. So they will call the officer, they will schedule the officer, they will float and front the money up. So if an officer works in the beginning of a cycle for a pay period, that is being paid by that company right away, so the officer will be paid in his next check. If it's toward the end of the cycle, of course, the officer waits at the most maybe a 2-check cycle. So within 2 to 4 weeks, the officer will be paid instead of waiting 3, 4, 5 months. They handle it from, like I said, in 50 towns right now, 14 states. They float the money up. They have the insurance to cover them in case anything goes wrong. They have a $2 million liability insurance to protect themselves in the town. And I spoke with Sayreville. Sayreville Township was the first town to go with them in this state, and they've been with them for several years now. Even if there's a call in the middle of the night, a telephone pole struck down, wires down, a tree is down, they need an officer, they get the call, and Sayreville advised me that within minutes, we're getting the call, getting the information, and hiring an officer and getting an officer out there. So day or night, they have one liaison person to work with us and handle all our needs, and there's never been a problem.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the information. Does anyone have a question? Mr. Pasquetti?
Hi. Thank you. It sounds great. How exactly does the officer get paid? Does he get paid from the township and the company reimburses the town? Or does the company cut them a check directly? How does that work?
They
When the
pay,
officer works for-
they pay to the town employee, still officer gets from the town. Before the payroll, the money will be, information will be received by the township, and they will be transferring money to us before we process the payroll. So we'll be paid in advance, and then we'll process all the payroll. And this does not change any fees that we collect currently. We maintain our fees, and I think ordinance maintains the same fees that we currently allow.
Yes, the ordinance maintains
The
it.
township is allowed. This is basically outsourcing the operation of assignments, collections, and also the biggest problem is that sometimes this contractor doesn't pay. Now we become liable to pay the employee because they need to get paid.
Right.
And so we have made sure this process, the responsibility goes to the third-party company.
Hey, that sounds pretty
We
good.
highly
Now,
recommend that council proceed with this.
And this company can make direct
They-
deposit.
what was that? I'm sorry.
This company will make direct deposit to the town. There won't be no checks waiting for a check. When an officer works, they automatically figure out the billing, and they will direct deposit the money into the town within the next day.
Great. And the 7% that they're going to tack on,
That's for their administrative
they're
fees.
going to, they're going to charge that 7% to the contractor.
Yes, to the contractor, not to the town or
Right, so
anything.
it doesn't cost us anything.
So for the contractor to hire an officer, there's officer, all the fees, let's just say it comes to $100 to make it even. They will charge $107, so 7% for them.
Right.
That's what they make on this.
It's actually savings to the township because now the officers that has to do all these administrative duties are pretty much reduced.
Right, and they're not chasing after the contractor anymore for
Yes,
payment.
it frees up a lot of man hours. Absolutely, it does.
That's great. So do you anticipate a reduction in the overtime? Just teasing.
Yes.
I'll be supporting it.
Just want to be clear, so this ordinance does two things. Again, this was something that we had talked about addressing, and it came up with the survey that the state gives you about having an ordinance dealing with extra duty officers. So it beefs up our extra duty assignment existing ordinance, which it was sparse as well. And then as part of that, as Kevin said, it provides for the ability to do this third-party billing as well. And they're being used in another municipality that I represent, and they had them for a little over a year, and they haven't had any problems. And my experience with these towns who have utilized extra duty solutions, they've been very pleased with the work. Once if the ordinance is adopted, we go forward, that'll be and we decide to go with a third party, then we'll have to approve a contract with them. So that's the other part with the third party contractor.
Yes, and I do have the contract here, and it's basically simple with that, and there's a severability with the contract. It's very simple, and of course, they had their lawyers write it up, and it's very easy for a town to understand and for the police departments to see through it.
I mean, even the police department can follow, is that what you said?
Yes.
You mentioned Sayreville's been using it for how long? Do you know?
The exact time, it was just mentioned to me that it was several years now. They're the first town in New Jersey to go with them.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else to comment? Okay, and then I'll ask for a motion.
Well, excuse me, do you know the name of the company?
Extra Duty Solutions.
Excellent.
I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Walker and
So again,
second
we're
by
clear,
Mr.
we're
Pescetti.
moving to introduce it at this meeting.
Yep,
Wait, who is the second? I'm sorry.
Mr. Pescetti.
Thank you.
Mrs. Walker made the motion.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belly?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Pescetti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohor?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you, Council.
All right. Next will be clerk.
I have no report tonight, Council.
Thank you. Township Attorney.
Nothing to report, Madam President.
Okay, and our administrative report, Mr. Shah. Yeah.
Thank you, Council President. Administrative report for November 16, 2020. Item number 1, CDBG 2019 Annual Action Plan Substantial Amendment is required to include the addition of $453,579 in Community Development Block Grant CV funds awarded through the 2020 Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act. It is the addition of these funds and creation of new activity that constitutes a substantial amendment as outlined in the Township Citizen Participation Plan. The substantial amendment has been public display beginning Thursday, November 5th on the Township website. A virtual public hearing on the grant amendment was held on Thursday, November 12th at 2 p.m. Item number 2, the second round of fall leaf collection begin today, November 16th in Ward 5 and 6. Ward 1 through 4 collection will resume during the week of November 30th. Leaves must be placed in paper leaf bags. For the full schedule, visit oldbridge.com/recycling. Item number 3, Old Bridge Township and Old Bridge Board of Education will be sponsoring COVID-19 testing before the Thanksgiving holiday. Testing will be held at Old Bridge High School parking lot located at 4209 County Road 516. Testing will begin Sunday, November 22nd from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., Monday, November 23rd from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., and Tuesday, November 24th from 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Result will be received the following day of testing via email. Old Bridge residents will need to bring their driver license and insurance cards. Additional COVID-19 testing will be held after the Thanksgiving holiday. For detail, please visit the Township website. The idea came about so that we can offer people prior to Thanksgiving a testing and a safe way to celebrate the Thanksgiving. It's also in response to increasing the positive test result that's going on currently. Item number 4, there will be a special brush and branch pickup on Monday, November 23rd. Bundle must be tied up and placed at the curb the night before. Please contact the recycling department by 2 p.m. on Friday to be placed on a pickup list at 732-721-5600 extension 610 or visit or email recycling@oldbridge.com. Item number 5, township-wide pickup of televisions will begin on December 1st in Ward 4, 5, and 6. Ward 1, 2, and 3 are scheduled for pickup on December 3rd. To be placed on the pickup list, please call Recycling Department by 2 p.m. the day before at extension 6107 or email recycling@oldbridge.com. Item number 6, the state has extended the deadline to file the 2019 property tax reimbursement senior freeze forms with the state of New Jersey. Application must be postmarked by December 31, 2020. For additional information, residents should contact the state of New Jersey Division of Taxation at 1-800-882-6597 or the Township Division of Tax Collection at extension 2999. Item number 7, virtual tree and menorah light will be held virtually on Monday, December 14th at 6:30 p.m. The event will be live streamed for the public to view on the Old Bridge Township YouTube station. Item number 8, the basketball court project, which surfaced 4 courts and included installation of 10 new backboards with rims at both Central Park and a waterfront at Lawrence Harbor, are now complete and open for use. Item number 9, during the winter months, outdoor dining area would require provision of heating and or permanent anchoring system. The design guideline for the same were issued by the township in October of 2020 and are available on the township website. Item number 10, Old Bridge Township will commemorate the anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor with a wreath-laying ceremony on Monday, December 7th at 10:30 a.m. The event will be live-streamed for the public to view on Old Bridge Township YouTube station. Council, I just want to alert you that the CARES Act funding that provided to the municipality for certain expenses related to CARES require that we must complete the project and spend all the money and pay them by year end. And since we have a limited council meeting, the administration will need to approve some of these projects as they come and get completed before year end. Those projects, the administration will make sure that submit all the reports to the council, the county, and get a pre-approval before we spend the funds. You saw that in today's resolution where county approved and state approved $296,000 for scanning of documents in various departments. That's a pretty expensive proposition that now township doesn't have to do, and it provides COVID-related, safety-related things. And I want to continue as many as those opportunities to take advantage of that. We will bring it to the council for approval. It may be in a December or in January meeting, but we need to, I just want to alert you that I will be allowing, submitting and approving those projects. I will do email alert to all the council members, and then eventually we'll bring it on a council agenda.
Council President, I'd like to add an item to that, please. As of yesterday, I'd like to make the council aware that the Old Bridge Sarah South Rebels were in the playoffs. You had 3 teams yesterday up at Lombardi Field. The 5th grade team was successful in winning that playoff game. The 7th grade team was also successful in winning their playoff game. Unfortunately, the 8th grade team was not successful, but the game that they played was described as heart-stopping, back and forth, and probably one of the most exciting youth football games played in the township of Old Bridge in recent memory. Unfortunately, the clock ran out on them, or it would have been a different outcome. And I'm also pleased to say that the 5th and 7th grade teams are on their way to the Pop Warner Super Bowl. And we will know tomorrow if we will, or if the organization will be hosting the Super Bowl this coming Saturday, and I will let the council know if they want to go see good football played, our Sayward South Rebels. So I want to congratulate the players, the coaches, and the parents for such a difficult year and able to provide a program that would put these kids on a football field when a lot of organizations around the state said no. But the Rebels stepped up to the plate, and they got it done. I stepped up to the plate. I'm quoting baseball and football. But they did a commendable job, that organization, and what a product they put on the field in these challenging, difficult times. I think the players are going to be better off for it. So please keep our 5th and 7th grade teams, light a candle, and we'll get these teams to the Super Bowl, and hopefully they'll be victorious. Okay? And I'll let the council know about if the game is going to be played here on Saturday, the games. Thank you, Council President.
Hey, does anyone have any comments or questions on this administrative report? Mr. Rizzoli?
Yeah, I just want to comment number 6. This council is on the forefront with our resolution demanding that the homestead rebate, which the senior tax freeze falls under. We got attention from the Homeless Tribune, which made a front page story, which basically, brought it to the attention of our Assembly and Senate representation that they needed to get it funded, which it was funded. So I'm really proud of this council. We were on the forefront, and now I'm glad to see that the senior tax freeze is in effect. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment or a question? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, moved by Dr. Greenberg. Bella?
I did want to say, I hope people pay attention to this administration report, because a lot of people don't realize how active the town is to really providing services to the residents and how hard the administration works. And I really, every month when we read this, I don't think it should be ignored, the efforts that is put into this. So thank you, everyone, for doing this. Mayor Hamachu, thank you.
Okay, so you made a motion, and Mrs. Walker made a second.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli?
Yes.
Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr. Piscitty?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Zohar?
Yes.
We have 8 ayes.
Next will be council comments.
Ms. Brown?
I just want to say first, thank you to the Public Works Department. Unfortunately, Kyle has already left at this part of the meeting, but thank you for helping the group that I started to host 2 cleanups throughout the township, one at Dulharno Lake and the other at Lawrence Harbor. So I just wanted to thank Public Works for making it a very easy way to help the community. The second thing I wanted to talk about very briefly is in reference to the group that I've been working with. I started a group called the Old Bridge Coalition for Equality. One of the things that I noticed with a lot of people reaching out to me via email or phone, text, what have you, there's a lot of, how can I say, disappointment with the amount of partisan politics and just the inability to just have kind, unity, harmonious conversations. And so I started the group for people who are interested in having a voice, whether they are, abled, differently abled, from the LGBTQ community, and from all the various diverse cultures that exist in Old Bridge. And so it's just a place for people who can just see the beauty in everyone who lives here and to work together in harmony by doing community service of any sort. That being said, we're on to our 3rd event, and that is going to be doing Thanksgiving dinners for our neighbors. We'll actually be delivering on November 26th, which is Thanksgiving Day. Surprisingly, we have gotten way more money than actual people that are able to receive, or I guess would like to receive the dinner. So just putting a call out for people who would like to receive a free Thanksgiving dinner. We have a cap of 100 people right now, but we may be able to feed more because we've gotten, like, my friends have donated and a lot of people throughout the township have donated. And by the way, this group, the Old Bridge Coalition for Equality, I can't do it without the help of actual residents here. Like, it's literally people of different walks of life and generations who have just stepped up and they helped me. They put a website together. They've been like running these events with me. It's been a very beautiful thing. So I'm actually really proud of it because it just goes against the vitriol that we can sometimes see in politics. And it's literally just people working together hand in hand and not paying attention to all that other stuff. But yes, again, if you're interested in the Thanksgiving dinner, if you know anybody who's going to be alone on Thanksgiving, or maybe it's a whole family, we have plenty of food. We've gotten over the amount of donations, like we've exceeded our donation monetary amount already at this point. And, you know, we just want to help people. So they can reach out to me via email, which is fine, or they can also call, excuse me one second, sorry, I didn't have this number up, 732, oh boy, give me 1 second. Uh-oh. Okay, almost there. Okay, maybe that's not it. All right, give me one more moment, and I'll get this number. Okay, here it goes. All right. And also they can go on Facebook and look for the Old Bridge Coalition for Equality. But if they want, they can call 732-675-9683 if they're not really tech savvy, or they can go to our form, which is on Facebook, and it's under the Old Bridge Coalition for Equality. All they have to do is search it, or they could actually look on numerous Old Bridge Facebook pages, and they'll be able to see our flyer, and that will have the registration link on there as well. Obviously, we'll be closing it up soon because Thanksgiving is next Thursday, but again, if somebody wants a plate, please. If it's a whole family of 5 people, we would be happy to, like, we will be delivering on Thanksgiving mornings. And we have turkey, everything. The menu is also on the events page. So just wanted to say that. Thank you and have a great holiday.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. De Palma?
Yes, so real quick, I just wanted to highlight that last week Old Bridge was named the 4th safest large city in New Jersey by AdvisorSmith. So, you know, I think this is such an excellent example of the tireless dedication and hard work of the Old Bridge Police Department and the administration. So I think we should be commending that. I mean, year over year, we are given these honors of being such a safe community, and I think it's a fabulous thing. And I think the Old Bridge Police Department and all the work that they do, it just highlights how great they are. The other thing is, as the holidays approach, you know, and we all enjoy our time with our immediate families, you know, I would ask that everyone remember their friends and neighbors that may need also a little holiday cheer. So please, if you can, reach out to those folks just to check in with them. Sometimes just a friendly voice can lift someone's spirit. And with that, just happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and enjoy the holidays.
Thank you.
Dr. Greenberg-Belly?
Yes, please don't forget this November 28th, Shop and Dine Old Bridge. I mean, these businesses are suffering, and it's important to give back to your community. And I want to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. Be safe and enjoy.
Thank you.
Mr. Merwin's absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yeah, I just want to wish everybody here and at home a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Mr. Peschitti?
Yes, I too want to just wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and just love one another. Thank you.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yeah, I want to congratulate the Old Bridge Police Department. Anytime you achieve any type of ranking in law enforcement, you have to be working hand in hand with the community. And just want to wish them to stay safe during the holiday season. You know, remember our dispatchers, our firemen, our police officers, you know, they work on the holidays. Happy Thanksgiving to them, and happy Thanksgiving to the Old Bridge community. Thank you.
Ms. Walker?
I just want to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and safe Thanksgiving.
President Sohor?
Yes, I just wanted to mention one other thing. We will be having a day of giving for Old Bridge residents for the food bank. It's going to be a drive-through because of the situation with COVID, and it's going to be at the Grand Marquis. It'll be on December 8th, and it's going to be from, the hours will be from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And we're asking for donations of food and, anyone that can make a donation, if they could please come. It's drive-through, it's safe. And, we've had so many more people that we've taken in and brought to the food bank that we really want to make sure that these people are being thought of and taken care of throughout this whole season and beyond. So anything that you can donate would be greatly appreciated. We did something over the summer, a day of giving, and we had a very positive response. And we'd like to, once again, Old Bridge is just a very great giving community, and we'd like you to please participate if you can. The other thing is, there is, like Dr. Greenberg said, many things great going on. I had the privilege of being at another Eagle Scout award, and it was absolutely phenomenal. Liam Walker, and he did a sensory garden, which is outside of the Camp Robin building, and it's absolutely beautiful. If you have an opportunity to please stop by, it was a tremendous project. These children put their whole, and their family, they put their all into the projects that they make. We should be very proud. And everyone, just thank you so much for all the good that goes on here, and I wish everybody a really happy and safe Thanksgiving. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Move it.
Moved by Mrs. Walker, second by Dr. Greenberg.
Okay.
Belli.
Ms. Brown is absent. Mr. De Palma?
Yes.
Dr. Greenberg Belli? Yes. Mr. Merwin is absent. Mr. Murphy?
Yes.
Mr.
John?
Murphy?
John?
Mr. Piscitti?
Yes.
Mr. Rizzoli?
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes.
President Sohar? We have 8 ayes.